Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
That sounded so good. I appreciate that. I'll call our meeting for October the 4th for the Nash County Board of Commissioners to order. At this time, we do have our commissioners that, due to a health reason, is attending virtual this morning. Good morning, Sue. You can hear me okay? Great.
Good morning.
Morning. It is customary for the Nash County Board of Commissioners to begin each one of their meetings with a prayer by a sitting commissioner and then a pledge of allegiance to the flag. If you wish to stand and join us during that prayer, you're welcome to. You're welcome to use this time for your own prayer at your seat, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence. And at this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Gwen Wilkins for the prayer, and then Wayne Outlaw for the Pledge of Allegiance after that. So if you wish to stand and join us, Commissioner Wilkins.
Let us all pray. Dear God, it is again we come together to conduct the business of Nash County. Help us to listen and act with a humble heart and a strong mind, with understanding and commitment, and to respect others' opinions as we articulate our own. God bless our frontline workers. Continue to give them the strength and resolve to help those who cannot help themselves during these trying times. And please, place patience and understanding in all our hearts as we listen and strive to help one another. And as we enter October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we ask that you give comfort and strength to those who are going through this, and to the families of those who have lost loved ones. Lastly, help us to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. In his name we pray. Let everyone say amen.
Amen. Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're now on item number 4, and it is a review of our minutes from the last month. We had one official meeting, which was September the 20th. Well, actually, we had two. We've already approved one set of minutes, the first meeting in the month, and so we have the September 20th minutes to approve, and at this time, I'd call for any correction, changes, or motion to approve as submitted.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like
Aye.
sign? Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Sue. I'll try to slow up a little bit so I can catch that last one. We're on item 5 now, which is an item that's on our agenda each meeting that we have at the first of the month, and is for public comment. And it allows any citizen that wishes to speak to this board to come forward and talk to us about or ask any questions that you may have about anything that's not otherwise covered on the agenda. If you're here for an agenda item, we would ask you to wait until that item comes up, particularly public hearings. We have a sign-up period out front before the meeting. I did not have anyone to sign up this morning, but our board is a little lenient on that, and if there's someone here that didn't realize they needed to sign up and wishes to come forward, we would certainly be glad to hear from you at this time. Anyone wishes to speak on an item other than what's on the agenda? Seeing no one, I appreciate everybody being here. We'll move right on to item number 5, which is, number 6, which is a resolution appointing the Register of Deeds for Nash County. And at this time, I think we all know where we stand. We had our Register of Deeds that passed away in office, and Melvin, which we are all very surprised, I think, that did happen. I personally knew she was having a little health issues, but not to the extent that we would end up where we are this morning. But the way that works for the general public is when the Register of Deeds leaves office, that is an elected official, and the party in which she is affiliated with, which was the Democratic Party, at that point, the executive committee has their meetings, ever how their platform calls for them, and they come up with a name to submit to the Board of Commissioners. And basically, the Board of Commissioners, by general statute, I guess you would call it, bless that name. We approve the name that they submit, but otherwise, we really don't have any options about that. Not that this board would do anything but, because we always have, quite frankly. But is there any discussion from the board on that item? Anything any board member wishes to say? Say it done. Let me find the letter that I got right quick. Is it in here, Madam Clerk?
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet. I got it. Thank you. If you got a written copy there, let me have that.
On page 19.
Thank you. Naturally, I'll find it when you hand it to me, but that's fine. On September the 23rd, I did receive a certified letter from the chairperson of the Democratic Party. And basically what it says is, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 161-5 and the North Carolina Democratic Party Plan of Organization, the members of the Nash County Democratic Party Executive Committee convened for the purpose of making a recommendation to the Nash County Board of Commissioners to fill the unexpired term of the office of the late Nash County Register of Deeds, Ann Melvin. The Nash County Democratic Party Executive Committee recommends Sandra Davis, and I am hereby certifying this for your consideration and for said appointment. Very truly yours, Dr. Cassandra Stroud Conover, chairperson of the Nash County Democratic Party. I'd entertain a motion at this time to approve this nomination.
I so move.
Moved by Mr. Belfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner
Second.
Combs and Ms. Leggett at the same time. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion stands approved. And at this time, we will move right into the swearing in of Sandra Davis. And I think Ms. Thorne, our clerk of court, she is here, okay? So if y'all want to come forward and do this, and the family certainly welcome to come with you, or ever how, Sandra, you wish to do it. As long as I've worked here or been here, and as long as Sandra's worked here, I never understood who her parents were until I called her about a week ago to congratulate her and realized that I knew her mother and her father very well. Her mother, Liv Dawes, has been the previous head of our ABC board for a number of years, and so great to see you this morning. And of course, her father, Bill Dawes, I worked with my 10 years at the city of Rocky Mount. I didn't stay long as he did. If I remember right, and I'm probably wrong, he was 40-plus years working there.
35.
35, okay. That's a long time for what he did. He kept all of us power for those 35 years. Great gentleman. Sandra, do you want to introduce your family first?
Sure, I'd be glad to. This is my husband, Doug Davis.
I do know Doug as well. Maybe rode the school bus with him.
You did.
My mother, Elizabeth Dawes, and this is my daughter, Ashley Harper.
Great. I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
Do you Sandra Davis, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? Do you, Sandra Davis, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established in the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
I do.
Do you, Sandra Davis, solemnly swear that you will be faithful, will faithfully and truly, according to the best of your skill and ability, execute the duties of the office of the Register of Deeds of the County of Nash, in all things according to the law, so help you God?
I do. Thank you.
Sandra, would you like to say anything, ma'am?
Now, I wasn't prepared for this. I would just like to say thank you for all the support that I've had from family and from friends. It just seems very strange to be in this position. Like you said, Ann was sick, but did not expect her to pass away. So that I just hope that I can do a good job and make her proud, and I'm going to do my very best.
Well, if you're in the indication, I've always found all of us have some traits of our parents in us. And in your case, I think you're off to a great start the day you were born, quite frankly, because I've always thought the world of both your parents, and you get the knowledge of how to do the things on one side, and if you work anything like your father does, you certainly have the work ethics to make it work. So I don't expect anything but great things. That department, if one department, as I said previously during Ann's passing, that I don't think the board ever gets any complaints on in her term, and I hope it pretty much stays that way. In brief conversation I had with you, I thoroughly agree with your thought of having a person that speaks fluent Spanish involved whenever you can get to that point to find someone. I know that's difficult, but that would be a great thing to have in there as well. But anything the board can do to help you moving forward, please feel free to contact us through the staff and or personally. It doesn't matter. Mr. Lamb's always had no issue with us being in discussion with department heads. Some managers don't allow that or don't want that, and some give us free rein, so feel free to call us anytime, and we certainly look forward to it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Good to see you again, Doug.
Good to see you, man.
Anyone else wish to say anything? Mr. Belfield?
Did I hear Sandra say that she worked in that office already over 30-some years?
No, that was her father I was speaking of, who was over the utility division with the city.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I hope you're not, I was gonna say, I hope you're not ready to retire so soon.
Thank y'all for being here this morning. Great to see you again, Liv. And thank you for your service to Nash County. Y'all welcome to spend the day with us if you like. Gotcha.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Got to go over it.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8 then, and it is a resolution honoring the public service of Miss Mary Phillips Wells. And I would call on the family at this time to come up and receive the resolution. If y'all want to make your way to the front, and Jonathan, if you will help get them positioned, if you are in the room. I would think so. Yeah. Jonathan, you want to get them arranged like you
Sure.
feel would be best?
Y'all just take a few steps back, okay? And then get in really tight.
pictures of your life. On behalf of the family of Mary, the Board of Commissioners has previously passed this resolution. We have all signed it, and it reads like this. Resolution honoring the public service of Mary Phillips Wells, Nash County Board of Commissioners. Whereas Mary Phillips Wells began her service on the Nash County Board of Commissioners on March the 9th, 2009, and served the citizens of Nash County for over 12 years. And whereas Mary Phillips Wells was an enthusiastic, loyal, and dedicated member of the Democratic Party, and whereas Ms. Phillips Wells participated actively in numerous civic, community, governmental organizations, and service to her community was a core belief for Mary. And whereas Mary Phillips Wells was a person of strong faith and is a longtime member of Dorchester Baptist Church, she served in many capacities and was the church's first female deacon. And whereas Mary Phillips Wells loved, supported, and cherished her family, she was a dedicated and much loved wife, mother, and grandmother. And whereas Mary Phillips Wells was known across the state of North Carolina and especially in Nash County for her dedication to public service. Now therefore be it resolved that the Nash County Board of Commissioners for itself, its individual members, and the citizens of Nash County hereby express its condolences to the family of Mary Phillips Wells and its sincere respect and deep gratitude for the many years of dedicated service rendered by Mary Phillips Wells. Be it further resolved that, that this resolution will be placed in the permanent minutes of the Nash County Board of Commissioners, and that a copy of the resolution will be presented to the family of Mary Phillips Wells as an expression of appreciation adopted this 4th day of October 2021. That to you, sir. Thank y'all. Any of you wish to say anything, you're welcome to. Be glad to hear you. Okay. Thank y'all. If we could, let's go ahead and officially adopt this resolution. I'd entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the resolution for Mary Phillips Wells.
All right, have a motion and a second by Commissioner
Second.
Belfield and Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on that motion? I'm sure not. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like
Aye.
sign? Motion carries. Thank y'all. All right, we'll move to item number 9. Item number 9, Ryan Combs, Executive Director, Research Triangle Regional Partnership, is here with us this morning, and I'll call on Andy to make the introduction, if that's okay, Andy. Pleased to have him in Nash County this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. The Research Triangle Regional Partnership is an economic development organization with a membership of 12 counties, including Nash County, which joined in August 2020. The RTRP serves as a connector between businesses looking to expand or relocate and the economic development offices, government agencies, and business organizations that support private sector growth. They introduce companies and organizations to the Research Triangle 12-county region and tell our story of an incredible and diverse talent, a competitive cost of living, a diverse economic climate, and a quality of life that is second to none. The RTRP's primary goal is to market, the region to external audiences, national and international, on why the Research Triangle 12-county region is the best place to live and do business. Now I would like to introduce and welcome back Brian Combs, Executive Director, and also Ashley Warren, Marketing Manager, for an update of the RTRP's activities and region. Welcome back.
I did forget to mention a pause between each speaker, if we could, to allow us to clean the podium. Megan will be right there. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank y'all so much.
Welcome back to Nash County.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me back. Well, Andy did pretty much a good job. I was going to tell you a little bit about our mission, but Andy did such a good job, and I see y'all's agenda items today, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. But Andy mentioned that our primary role with the Research Triangle Regional Partnership is to take our message of our 12-county region and sell that to the rest of the world. We've got an incredible story to tell. You know, since COVID began, our region has received about $12 billion in new investments, everything from life sciences to tech. But we've got an incredible story to tell, and so that's our primary mission, is to go out and tell that story and make sure everyone else in the rest of the world knows what we're doing. So one of the things, you know, obviously COVID presented new challenges. We had to find creative ways to get our messaging out. And so in the past year, I'll give you an update. One of the first things we did was we engaged with DCI, which is a marketing firm that specializes in economic development marketing. Wake County Economic Development and the Raleigh Chamber have used DCI for years. So we leveraged some of the resources that Wake County Economic Development was already spending with DCI, and we lumped our resources together, and we did a national digital marketing campaign. We focused our efforts on C-suite executives nationally and key decision makers for companies who are the ones making the decisions of where to locate. And so you can see we had about 567,000 impressions on LinkedIn. I'm having a hard time reading my own PowerPoint, but you can see the top metros of where people were looking at our materials. I believe New York was the #1, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta. And then the middle slide tells you the top performing Google ad keywords. So when people Google our region, these are the top things they were looking at when they looked at us. And then you can see that we did exactly what we tried to do as with the C-suites. So the CEO was the #1 person on LinkedIn looking at our materials. So very successful LinkedIn campaign. We ran that for 6 months, and we're very pleased with the outcomes there. We also did a manufacturing campaign, a 3-month campaign. We used CBS 17 News to help us with this one. So we focused our efforts around New Jersey and Michigan. And if you see, 1.69 million people saw our digital ads online, and 7.1 thousand pages viewed on our website. And so that's our goal, is to get people to look at our website and drive them to individual county websites. One of the interesting things about this was we had a video that would play, a 30-second video spot. And CBS told us that it was unheard of that over 70% of the people that clicked on our video watched the show to its entirety. So it was just a good, uh-oh, I'm losing them. There we go. Am I doing that? Okay. Chairman Davis was one of the people that participated as well. One of the other groups that we cater to are site selection consultants. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal a couple years ago that said close to 70% of all companies use some type of site influencer to help them decide where to relocate or expand their company. And so this was an opportunity for elected officials to participate and hear straight from site consultants on what's important and what's happening. So we did that last February. And then this is Site Selector magazine. There's 112,000 subscribers. A lot of the people that read that publication are site selection consultants. We focused this article strictly around manufacturing and mentioned Nash County specifically in the article. And then some of our current initiatives. Now that COVID is, well, I'd say we don't know when it's going to end, but we're trying to get back out on the road. I mean, the thing that's so important in economic development are personal relationships. So this was just a couple weeks, this was August, actually. This is, we did a trip to the Netherlands with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. The Netherlands is the #2 exporting country in the world for agriculture products behind the United States, and they're not even the size of North Carolina. They do a lot of their stuff in greenhouses, but agriculture technology is very important to their country, and so we were over there kind of learning some of the best practices and see a lot of opportunities. They're a perfect example for partnerships. The state of Kentucky has done something similar with them. This is App Harvest. This is a facility in Kentucky that's growing tomatoes, but we see a lot that this is the future of agriculture right here, 12 months of productivity. If you go to the Netherlands, there's nothing but greenhouses for miles and miles and miles. Wageningen University is the #1 ag tech university in the world. We visited there. Food Valley is an association that has about 200 ag tech companies under their umbrella. A lot in the food manufacturing space, and so it was a great visit there. One of the local companies that we visited, Keygene, is interested in doing business in the United States. And then I went to Belgium. So Andy, when Andy found out I was going to be overseas, he told me about Gourmand Pastries, and I don't know if you're familiar with Gourmand, but they're looking here in Nash County to expand. They make danishes. And because of COVID, they've just had to put everything on hold, but I had an opportunity to go and meet with them at their plant. This is the owner, CEO, and the CFO of the company, and they said they're still very much dedicated to locating here at some point. They've just got to get through COVID and rebound. So it was a good opportunity to go over there and say hello to a company that's interested in Nash County. And then I visited Austria. Austria was the #2 country in Europe for investment into the United States last year. A lot of stuff in the life sciences specifically. So we did an introductory, I hosted a lunch for business leaders and organizations to come learn more about the Triangle region. And then looking forward, so I believe I mentioned this to you last year, but every year the U.S. Department of Commerce puts on an event in Washington, D.C. called Select USA. It's an opportunity for an international company. If they want to do business in the U.S., it's a one-stop shop for them to learn how to do business in the United States. And so every economic development group in America will be there trying to talk to these companies. But we were selected 2 years ago, and because of COVID, we weren't able to do it. But this year we will be. We'll be a spinoff city for companies to choose to come and learn more about. So we're very excited about that. That's going to happen in June this year. And then one of the other things we're doing this year is we've had a heavy influence we've concentrated very heavily on France, partly because of the direct flight we have from Raleigh-Durham to Paris. That makes it very enticing for business to know they have a direct flight. It's a 6-hour time difference from here to France. So we're actually going to host a VIP business immersion program for French companies. Just recently, a couple weeks ago, if you didn't know, we were not allowing international folks to come to the United States, and they've just lifted that ban. It stops in November, and so international companies are going to be able to start coming here again. So we've scheduled that for January of this year. And then I mentioned site consultants and other campaigns we're working on. The Economic Development Partnership in North Carolina just put on a site consultant event a couple weeks ago in the mountains, and we had these site consultants in town, so we're able to speak to them. And then again, Chairman Davis, the event we did last year with Site Selection Consultants, Consultant Connect, we're going to do another virtual event with them in December to connect Andy and our other economic developers directly with those site consultants. And then right now we're engaged with a marketing firm out of Charlotte called Mythic. Mythic has already worked for EDPNC, and they've worked for the North Carolina Biotech Center. And so one of the things we're looking at is how we message and sell the Triangle region, the 12-county region in the life sciences. So we're in the middle of that campaign, and then once we get done with the campaign, we will work to deploy our new marketing materials. And then this is just an example of our website. We constantly update that with new sites in the area, and y'all are having so much success, we've got to get some more sites to put up for Nash County. And then these are just some of the publications we plan on running articles in this year. We had a lot of success last year with the Boston Business Journal and the Sacramento Business Journal, talking about our life science cluster here in the Triangle, and really think, especially in places like Boston and Sacramento where the R&D is being conducted, but they need somewhere to manufacture. We're a very enticing location for them there. And then these are just, I just wanted to throw some stats in on what we're looking at, where a lot of the manufacturing jobs are leaving. You can see some of the cities that we've kind of narrowed in on that will do some digital marketing around that as well. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Belfield?
I like the regional approach. Those that I've seen across the nation seem to be prospering much more than those that are not. Do you promote the region worldwide?
Yes, sir.
And my next question, it may be too much, but what about marketing the products that's marketed here in this region? Do you promote those also worldwide?
Yes, sir. I mean, that's what we go through the rest of the world, and we talk about our life sciences, we talk about our manufacturing, our tech, our agriculture technology, clean tech. I mean, we brag about our strengths as a region, what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I like that, going both ways.
Yes, sir.
How we're attracting industry in there and then also promoting what we produce here.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Are we trying to help our local companies grow externally? Is that your question? That's not, yeah, my primary focus is to attract new investment, but it certainly helps when I'm in other markets. So when I was in the Netherlands this year, we actually, there's a local company in Garner that is a plant-based protein company, and they traveled with us, and their largest client is in the Netherlands, and they're trying to grow globally. But EDP&C does a lot of that stuff. The U.S. Commercial Service is in that space, and then the SBTDC also does that. And so our primary focus is on attracting new investment here.
Have you ever thought about taking a look at that part of it too? That's probably too much. You need to concentrate on one area.
Yes, sir. We only have 3 people on staff at our organization, so I can only do so much. But it is, I do try to work closely with those groups because it's beneficial for us to actually take local companies with us when we travel and try to help promote them as well.
Other commissioners have questions? Ms. Leggett? Did we lose you?
No, I'm just trying to get that unmuted.
Okay.
I'm good. That's very interesting, and I appreciate the update.
Sure. All right, we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank y'all. Y'all have a great week.
Actually, appreciate you being here as well. Good to see you in person. See you on my computer screen quite frequently. And do you have anything else you wish to add, sir? You good? Okay, we'll see you a little later in the agenda then. Thank you all. All right, we'll move now to very exciting item number 10, which is a proclamation to recognize October the 3rd through October the 9th, 2021 as National 4-H Week. And I'll call on Sandy Hall. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So thank you for this opportunity to come today to celebrate Nash County 4-H and National 4-H Week. We are here for 3 purposes today, and it is to keep you informed of the great work that Nash County 4-H does under Cooperative Extension, to thank you for the ongoing support that you offer to Extension and provide in which houses our 4-H program, and to proclaim this week as National 4-H Week here in Nash County. We are very excited to have this opportunity, and before we read the proclamation, we would like to take a few minutes to share some great successes and what has happened in our county 4-H program. The 2021 year has been much better than the 2020. We were able to get things back up and running, and while following all our safe COVID protocols. This week's theme surrounds finding your spark in 4-H. One can find their spark by spending time with other youth and adults, by immersing themselves in the community and exploring a variety of interests. 4-Hers have an opportunity to explore and find their spark through clubs, giving back to their community, through community service, developing leadership and citizenship skills. This year, we have helped keep the spark alive by engaging our youth in many service learning opportunities. A lending library and a blessing box were created and is on the location of the Nash County Ag Center to provide students an opportunity to have access to free books and for those in need to have access to food and toiletry supplies. You will see pictures of these two community service projects in a video that we will have prepared for you. This summer, we hosted 18 summer workshops and camps with over 250 youth participating. 6 summer teens served as interns, and they learned how to provide hands-on learning opportunities on volunteer hours, as well as workforce development skills. Because of the generous donation of $10,000 from a donor, 21 youth was able to attend 4-H camp at Betsy Jeff Penn. Families made applications and were awarded based on their needs. You will soon be able to see their excitement of the campers in action at 4-H camp. One of our very own, Taylor Hall, was inducted as the North Carolina Secretary-Treasurer. This induction took place at the conclusion of 4-H Congress, which was held virtually this year. However, Nash County 4-H hosted surrounding counties for a special candlelight ceremony in the 4-H gardens at the Ag Center, part of the Arboretum. It was a special night where 4-H alumni, 4-H Honor Club, 4-H members and volunteers surrounded the 4-H clover, which you will see on the video. You will also see some other 4-H opportunities that youth are invited to participate. Thus far, 4-H has reached more than 5,000 youth through 4-H clubs, 4-H school enrichment, 4-H special interests, and our 4-H summer program. And we can't do this without our generous volunteers that give their time and their support and funds. We have received over $18,000 in funds this year to support. Because of these another generous donation of $5,000, we will begin soon delivering 50 National 4-H themed challenge kits to the elementary and middle schools here in Nash County, to their media center, where the teachers will be able to check out and be able to use these hands-on learning opportunities with their students, as well as introduce 4-H opportunities. So before we watch the video, I would like to recognize our 4-H members and 4-H volunteers that are able to join us today and ask them to stand. So, of course, we're in school right now, so this is some of those that are homeschooled, and that could be with us here today and volunteers. So at this time, we would like to show you our video. that opportunity. Commissioner Leggett suggested that we might do a video, so I hope we made her proud with that.
I don't know who picked the music, but it was great.
So for the reading of the proclamation, I would like to invite Taylor Hall to come forward. As already shared, Taylor was inducted to be the North Carolina 4-H Secretary Treasurer, and we're delighted to have her here this week. Yesterday, she and other state officers kicked off National 4-H Week with a virtual showcase of NC 4-H talent, and today she's able to join us here to read the proclamation.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm honored to be here this morning and to be asked to read the Nash County 4-H Proclamation. This week, all over the United States and throughout all the 100 counties in North Carolina, many will be celebrating how 4-H has helped them find their spark. I'm most grateful for this organization because it's also guiding me to finding my spark. I'm currently attending Nash Community College, and I hope to transfer in January to NC State University to study agriculture business, where I desire to help continue to spread and advocate for the importance of the agriculture industry. Through 4-H, I've had the opportunity to see firsthand the challenges and the hard work our farmers do to help provide the food we all enjoy. I've had the opportunity to help teach students where their food comes from and advocate for the importance of knowing what is growing in your community. I look forward to one day actively engaged in supporting agriculture. 4-H will always have a special place in my heart, and it is amazing to see the positive impact it has made throughout North Carolina as well as all across the country. As 4-Hers, we strive to make the best better in our community, country, and ultimately our world by serving others while also trying to find our spark. I will now begin with reading of the proclamation. Whereas 4-H youth across the nation are leading efforts to solve problems in their communities and make a difference for their future, and whereas 4-H is the largest youth development organization in North Carolina and the largest in the nation with over 6 million participants, and whereas 4-H in North Carolina claims 260,000 youth members and 13,000 volunteers, while Nash County 4-H program numbers are more than 5,000 members through club membership, special interest, and school enrichment with more than 125 volunteers. And whereas 4-H is part of the NC Cooperative Extension System of NC State University, and NC A&T State University is a program where youth learn through opportunities that provide them hands-on experiences in 4-H's mission, mandates of science, engineering, and technology, healthy living, and citizenship. And whereas 4-H has connected youth and their communities with the innovative research and resources from nation's 112 land-grant universities and colleges for more than 118 years. Now, therefore, the Nash Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim October 3rd to the 9th, 2021 as National 4-H Week in Nash County. We urge the people of this county to take advantage of the opportunity to become more aware of the special program that enhances our young people's interests and their futures as part of Nash County 4-H youth development, and to join us in recognizing the unique partnership between our county and our state university system. Thank you.
Taylor, at this point, if you would call for a motion to approve this, I would appreciate it.
Okay. So I move that October 3rd to 9th is National 4-H Week.
All right, and ask for a motion from the board.
So moved.
May I have a second on this motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Wilkins, a second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions for Taylor on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? It hereby stands approved. You can proceed
All right.
with your,
Yes, sir.
you have something else you want to tell us?
Can we have a picture?
Maybe have a picture.
You can have a picture.
Okay.
I'd like for you to introduce your other participants individually, if you would, because I'm amazed at Amanda's 3 boys. I'm sitting here thinking what it would be like if my 2 grandchildren were in here sitting, particularly the 5-year-old young man. But if you could introduce those, I think the board would appreciate that, all of you, your participants in 4-H at the current time that you have with you today.
Yeah, so we have our volunteers and some of our extension staff here. We met Miss Amy Hall, Miss Amy Orman, Miss Kelsey, and then we have a few of our 4-H participants here. So we have our boys. Do you want to introduce yourself? Corbin.
And Devin.
And Devin.
I'm Seth LaHaye.
Seth LaHaye. And then this is Miss Molly LaHaye, Seth's mother, and she's one of our volunteers in our club. And then in the back here we have Brendan, that's right. And then we have Miss Jane Tyson, one of our volunteers, as well as Miss Brenda Wynn, who is a volunteer, but she also works in Extension. So they all have clubs here in Nash County, and they've been a part of 4-H for a very long time. So we are very thankful for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're welcome to arrange your picture any way you wish.
Okay.
They're standing right there, facing y'all both. Yep.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Jay. That sounds like my grandchild.
Turn him loose last.
All right, everybody squeeze real tight.
Great job. Thank you, Sandy. Taylor, I think you would look very nice up here in one of these seats at some time in your future.
Yes, sir, I do
And I'm sure you will do a great job. You're welcome to this one here in the center at some point. Okay?
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's one thing 4-H does. It teaches leadership, responsibility, discipline, and initiative to do things on your own and make a good citizen for the country as well as the community. And I've checked on quite a few 4-H's, well, former 4-H's that are doing well here in Nash County.
I'm sure.
You got one sitting on the board of commissioners.
Right. Yep. Thank you. Ms. Leggett, you like to say anything, ma'am?
I would, thank you. I wanted to thank Sandy and the others present today to represent Nash County 4-H. And we're just really blessed to have such a thriving 4-H program in our county. 4-H is just an awesome youth development program, opportunity for the young people of our county and across our nation. And, you know, as Mr. Belfield said, you know, I was one of his 4-H'ers, and 4-H really had a tremendous impact in my life and my aspirations for leadership. And it's really awesome to see the program still going strong. So thank you all again for being here today.
Other commissioners?
I was in 4-H a long time before Sue was.
We understand that, sir. Yep. All right, thank you all again. We okay to start public hearings? Anybody need a pause? We good?
Okay.
Okay, we're now on item number 11, which is a public hearing on a conditional use rezoning request, CZ 210901 for the Whitley Crossing Phase 2 subdivision. I'll call on Mr. Tyson at this time. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. This is a residential rezoning request that we have this morning. The subject property is outlined on your screen in red. You see it's approximately 30½ acres owned by the Barnes Land Corporation. It's located on both sides of Needham Road. The larger portion's on the south side and then a smaller wooded portion on the north side in that photo. It is currently zoned R40, single-family residential, as indicated by the green color. And of course, on the right side of your screen is the zoning map showing the subject property there. Property is northeast of the town of Bailey in the area known as the Green Pond Community. Site is wooded on the north side, cleared on the south side, currently undeveloped and used for agricultural purposes. If you will look at the zoning map, you'll see the property is immediately adjacent to 3 other properties that have been recently rezoned by the board to similar RA20 conditional designations. The Williams Grove subdivision to the south, which is this large area here, was rezoned to RA20 in April of this year. The Whitley Crossing subdivision, which is immediately adjacent to the subject property here, was rezoned in May of this year. And then to the north, this large area in yellow here was rezoned in August for the Strickland Road subdivision. And all 3 of those are very similar in nature to the request before you today. The property owner has submitted this rezoning request to rezone the property to RA20CZ, specifically for the proposed development of a 37-lot Whitley Crossing Phase 2 subdivision. So you'll recall that this was Whitley Crossing Phase 1, and then immediately adjacent would be Whitley Crossing Phase 2. There'll be 3 substantial impacts on the property were the rezoning to be approved today. Number 1, of course, the minimum lot area would be cut in half from the current 40,000 square feet requirement to 20,000 square feet, doubling the potential residential density. There are 9 land uses currently permitted for development under the R40 zoning district that would no longer be permitted for development under the proposed zoning district, most notably double-wide manufactured homes, but also rural family occupations, radio or communication towers over 60 feet in height, solar farms, non-hazardous solid waste disposal sites, utility field offices, water treatment plants, horse shows, and turkey shoots. And finally, because this is a conditional rezoning, the ultimate development of the property, if the request is approved, would be subject to the sketch plan that we're about to review. And the conditional nature allows for the attachment of reasonable site-specific development conditions with the consent of the applicant. If we turn our attention to the sketch plan, you will see Whitley Crossing Phase 1 is kind of lighter colored, shown toward the north or the top of the map on both sides of the road. And then the property that we're looking at today is toward the bottom half of the map, and that is Whitley Crossing Phase 2. This site plan or sketch plan was prepared by Stocks Engineering. The plan proposes 37 new residential lots along 2 new interior public roads. You'll see that they connect with the previously approved Phase 1 here on the west side of the development. It also would provide a stub road connection to the south and a connection, stub road connection to the Williams Grove subdivision that's being developed on the back side back here. So lots of connectivity there. All of the proposed lots either meet or exceed the standard 20,000 square foot minimum lot area and 100 foot minimum lot width requirement of the requested zoning district. Only 3 of these lots would be accessed directly from Needham Road. All the rest would be accessed from the interior. That would be lots 35, 36, and 37. So this one here on the south side of the road and these 2 on the north side. And as you can see, those are significantly wider in width than the other lots and meet the standard requirements for lots that have direct access to a road with over 1,000 estimated vehicular trips per day. The developer would be required to construct new water lines within the interior of the subdivision to connect each new lot to the Nash County Public Water System, and there is existing water along both Whitley Road and Needham Road. If we refer to the land development plan, this whole area is designated as suburban growth area. Of course, that area supports the rezoning of property where public water service is available to either RA 30 or RA 20 at the board's discretion. As I just previously mentioned, the property does have access to a 6-inch water line along Needham Road, and permitting higher density residential development will help to accommodate the significant residential growth anticipated by the plan for this area, and that, of course, we are beginning to see for this area. If we turn our attention to an analysis of reasonableness and spot zoning, the request is reasonable and in the public interest, at least in the opinion of the TRC, because number one, the request is not spot zoning. It's an expansion of the immediately adjacent RA 20 conditional zoning districts that border the subject property on 3 sides. The subject property already is and will continue to be zoned for residential use, similar to the adjacent and surrounding properties. And approval of the request will permit smaller minimum lot areas and increased density, but the new district, as previously mentioned, is slightly more restrictive in terms of permitted land uses than the current zoning district. The Nash County Technical Review Committee considered this request back on September 2 and recommended approval. The Planning Board considered this request on September 20th. No members of the public other than the applicant addressed the board with regard to this request. With a split vote of 6-1, the Planning Board ultimately voted to recommend approval, not only the request, but also the suggested statement of plan consistency and reasonableness that is found in your packet. And of course, because of the recent changes to the state law, this will be a single motion process. The board will either adopt a motion to approve the rezoning request and the suggested statement of plan consistency and reasonableness, or a motion to deny the request and to adopt a statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. There are 5 suggested development conditions that we ask would be attached to an approval. Of course, number 1, the property would be developed according to the approved sketch plan. Number 2, it would be developed for the land uses as permitted in the RA 20 zoning district. Number 3, all the residential lots would be served by Nash County Public Water, which shall be extended by the developer as necessary. Number 4, there'll be an evaluation of jurisdictional wetlands and riparian stream buffers prior to construction. And number 5, any significant or substantial changes could render this in need of a re-review by either the planning board or this board in the future. And with that, I will conclude my comments. Mr. Kevin Varnell with Stocks Engineering is present with us to represent the applicant during the public hearing. And I'll be happy to take any questions from the board on the staff report.
Any questions for Mr. Tyson at this time? Thank you, sir. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, a second. Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing, and if there's anyone that wishes to speak on this item in the audience this morning, either for or against, we would be glad to have you come up at this time, state your name and address for the record, and the board will be pleased to hear from you. Anyone wish to speak on this matter? Morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Kevin Varnell, Stocks Engineering, here representing the owner, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Any questions for the board members of the engineer for the project? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else wish to speak? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed, and any discussion from the board, this is split between Commissioner Combs and Commissioner Leggett's district, with most of it been in Commissioner Leggett's, it looks like. If there's no other discussion, I'd entertain a motion for approval or deny of the rezoning request, including the statement of plan consistency and reasonableness.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs and Commissioner Leggett, I think. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Next item on the agenda is another public hearing. It would be on a text amendment. UDO text amendment request A2-10802 for private campgrounds and RV parks. Mr. Tyson?
The board might recall last month you adopted a text amendment that relaxed the paving requirements for small campgrounds that have less than 10 campsites. This is a separate text amendment, but on the same topic. This one was initiated by the Technical Review Committee in response to a recent increase in interest in private campgrounds and RV parks. The UDO currently permits the development of private campgrounds and RV parks in the A1 agricultural, RC rural commercial, and GC general commercial zoning districts, subject to a list of required development standards that are established in the ordinance. This is an excerpt from our table of permitted uses. So as I just said, you see over here the use type is private campground RV park. It is permitted in these three zoning districts, A1, rural commercial, general commercial, and it's permitted with a code D, which down here use is permitted by zoning permit with development standards. What that means is it's a staff level review. When an applicant submits a proposed site plan for a private campground or RV park, and if that site plan meets all the relevant development standards that are cited in the ordinance, then they are entitled to the issuance of a zoning permit to authorize the construction of that private campground and RV park. There is no public hearing or board review required at this time. The A1 agricultural zoning district here is the largest zoning district within the county's planning jurisdiction. And because of its large size, it contains a diverse variety of development conditions that can range from large undeveloped agricultural tracts to suburban type residential subdivisions. Although there are certainly many locations within that broad A1 zone that are likely suitable for private campgrounds and RV parks, there are some locations, particularly near or adjacent to existing residential development, where the Technical Review Committee felt that additional reviews or development conditions could help ensure the compatibility of a private campground or RV park with the surrounding area. Therefore, the Technical Review Committee has submitted this text amendment that's before you today in order to require the approval of a conditional zoning district for the development of private campgrounds and RV parks within that large A1 zone. And so that text amendment would look like this. It would change the entry in the permitted use table under the A1 zone from a D for development standards to a C. And as you can see down here, a C indicates a conditional zoning district. What that means that is, in addition to the current administrative staff review process, an application to establish a private campground or RV park in the A1 zone would also require review by the planning board and a public hearing before the Board of Commissioners, at which time reasonable site-specific development conditions could be attached to the approval with the consent of the applicant. Basically, the idea is that within the A1 zone, the TRC feels the need to create a review process where a large RV park or campground could be customized with these conditions to fit the adjacent areas. The amendment, as you can see, does not propose any changes to the review process for property that has already been rezoned to a commercial status. So RC, GC would remain an administrative staff level review according to development standards. Whenever we review a text amendment, we are required by law to consult our land development plan, but in this case, because the plan does not specifically address the review requirements for private campgrounds and RV parks, this request is neither consistent nor inconsistent with the plan. So you will be asked when it's time to make motions to adopt a statement of plan consistency, but whether you approve or deny the text amendment, the statement will be the same, which is that the amendment is neither consistent nor inconsistent. The Technical Review Committee considered and recommended this request on August 4th, obviously because they are the applicant, and asked that it be approved based on the determination that RV parks and campgrounds in the A1 agricultural zone should require the approval of a conditional zoning district. The Nash County Planning Board first considered this request on August 16th. Mr. Kevin Varnell with Stocks Engineering addressed the board and asked that the request be tabled for 1 month to allow 2 currently under development RV park projects to be submitted and reviewed under the current regulations. One of those is the one that triggered the request from last month, the 8-space Gold Mine RV park on Taylor Store Road, which you see here. And of course, the request was allow this to be graveled instead of paved because there's less than 10 campsites. And the second project is much larger and is located on Prophecy Road. This is a 180-space RV park, and it is located directly across Prophecy Road from the Phobos Solar Farm, which you might recall has not been built yet, but is the largest approved solar farm in Nash County, and is a very substantial development that will be happening on the opposite side of the road. It was the intensity of something like this proposal which triggered the TRC to reevaluate the review requirements. But having said that, because both of these projects were submitted, they'll be reviewed under the previous or the current regulations, meaning that they'll have an administrative staff level review, but not a public hearing or a planning board meeting. This is also a one motion process. Excuse me, the planning board voted unanimously to table that request and to reconsider it at its next meeting, which happened on September 20th. At that time, no members of the public addressed the board with regard to the request, and the planning board unanimously voted to recommend approval of the request and the statement of plan consistency. So this is a one motion process, and let me go back. And I'll be glad to take any questions that the board has.
Questions from board of Mr. Tyson at this time?
I've got one question.
Sure, Sue.
You mentioned one of these proposed RV parks is located on Prophecy Road. Is that in the southern part of the county?
Yes. I believe it's in Commissioner Cohn's district.
Okay. Thank you.
Adam, I'm a little curious with that many spaces. What would drive us getting one of those in Nash County at that location? If you happen to know the answer to that.
I would have anticipated seeing it either closer to a tourist attraction or closer to the interstate for convenience. But I'd have to defer to the applicant for what created the interest in that particular piece of property.
Okay. We can ask that during public hearing then. Okay. Other questions of Mr. Tyson? Thank you, sir. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this text amendment.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing on this text amendment as presented by Mr. Tyson. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this, we'd be glad to hear from you at this time. You will come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
So we didn't get an answer to the question of why.
Any opposed? Let me finish my
Okay,
motion.
I
Any
thought you-
opposed?
I'm sorry.
Any opposed to the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 I got off track. I got a
I'm sorry.
motion. Any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. And everybody said aye. Okay, I think I'm straight. All right, the public hearing is now closed, and further discussion from the board. Dan?
So we didn't get an answer as to why somebody want to build a RV park of that size on Prophecy Road. The only thing I could think about is the big solar farms there, but it wouldn't be, at this point, it wouldn't be for workers and that kind of thing to temporarily be there. So I just still have a big question as to why.
How far is it from 64?
If you could answer Mr. Combs' question, or at least let Mr. Combs know you don't know the answer, that would be great. Come forward and state your name. So you were involved in this particular one?
I was.
Kevin, okay.
Good morning, Kevin Varnell, Stocks Engineering. I am the engineer for the applicant, and to be honest, I have no idea why they want to put one at that location. But that's the property they own, and that's the location they've chosen. So that's where they're going with it. But I don't have a good answer as to why it's there.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions of Kevin while he's at the podium? We thank you, sir. Adam, with that many, it would then become what you're doing, it would, and in an A1 district, as I understand it, because I hadn't kept up with this too well, it would then come to the planning board, come to us, therefore it would go through an extensive sewer waste process prior to getting back to this board on one of those, would it not?
Well, even under the current, the sewer waste review would be the same under the current rules or under the proposed rules. And again, this one was submitted prior to this change, so it will be reviewed under the current rules. But yes, in either case, the Nash County Health Department and possibly the State Health Department, depending on if there are dump stations being permitted, would be involved in the review and the development of that site.
So this particular one, when it comes in, this board will not see it again?
Correct, but the TRC thinks that based on that model, it might be a good idea for the planning board and the board of commissioners to be able to weigh in on these projects by changing the review process, and that's what this text amendment seeks to do.
Okay, I think I understand what you're doing now. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna call for a motion to approve or deny this, as stated by Mr. Tyson, with the statement that it does not have a consistency statement.
It will have a consistency statement, but that statement is that it is neither consistent nor inconsistent with the plan.
Okay. Entertain a motion at this time.
Motion to approve the text amendment.
Have a motion by Commissioner Combs there, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 13, which is a public hearing for the 2021 Community Development Block Grant Neighborhood Revitalization. I'll call on Patsy McGee at this time to make this request.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nash County is in the process of closing out its 2018 Community Development Block Grant Neighborhood Revitalization Project, which makes us eligible to apply for 2021 CDBG NR funds, and the application is due October 14th. We intend to apply for $750,000 of 2021 CDBG NR funds with a local match of $5,000, as we've done in similar programs in the past. And if awarded, this grant will be used to assist about 8 low to moderate income homeowners with housing rehabilitation or reconstruction through forgiven deferred payment loans at scattered sites in Nash County that are outside of Rocky Mount, which is ineligible as an area because it receives entitlement funds straight from the federal government for similar programs. And in executing this program, we will make good faith efforts to involve historically underutilized businesses and Section 3 individuals and businesses. We will also provide for and encourage citizen participation in this plan according to the citizen participation plan, which is in your packet. We ran a notice in the Rocky Mount Telegram seeking applications for participation in this program, and those were due on September 30th. And to submit this application for funding, 2 public hearings are required. You held one on September 20th. And the notice for the public hearing today is also in your packet. It ran September 16th. So in your packet are the notice of the public hearing, an authorizing resolution for us to submit this grant application, and the required citizen participation plan for this grant. So our recommendations are to hold the public hearing, adopt the resolution, and approve the plan.
Right. Any questions from Ms. McGee at this time? Thank you, ma'am. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a public hearing at this time to receive any comments for the 2021 Community Development Block Grant for Nash County. If someone wishes to speak for or against this item, we would be glad to hear from you. If you come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no movement, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Have a motion to close by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Did I hear you, Sue?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries to close the public hearing. Any more discussion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
one question.
Sure.
Is there any stipulation or any program to help minority-owned businesses with this program?
Minority-owned businesses are encouraged to participate in the program, and when we work with the consultant and the contractor, we encourage we encourage minority contractors to apply and subcontractors to apply to work on the houses.
So there has been some outreach, and they've been notified?
They will be notified when we bid the project.
Okay.
Yes.
They have been in past projects of this nature. We do this every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's an extensive effort to get more minority participation in this program, as well as any other capital improvement program, or any construction that we do here at the county.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will call for a motion to approve or deny authorizing the resolution and citizen participation plan.
For motion that we authorize to apply for this grant, community development block grant.
Have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by
Second.
Commissioner Wilkins and Commissioner Leggett. Any further questions? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. You have the next item also, which is item number 14, 2021 Community Development Block Grant for Economic Development.
Yes, Nash County has submitted an application for Community Development Block Grant Economic Development Building Reuse Funds, and one of the documents that the Department of Commerce requires is a loan agreement that includes details like the amount, the borrower's payment terms between Nash County and the company. And the county attorney has prepared this document. It is in your packet. And also, he's prepared a promissory note and deed of trust in relation to the loan agreement. And just as a reminder, this is a $750,000 CDBG Economic Development Building Reuse Grant from the Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division, which will support the renovation of the manufacturing facility to be used by the Crump Group, a Canadian manufacturer of all-natural limited ingredient pet treats. And this will be located at 4626 Coleman Drive in north of Nashville, near Universal Leaf, and will result in the creation of 100 new full-time jobs within the 2-year grant period, 60% of which will be reserved for persons of prior low to moderate income status. So in your packet, you have the loan agreement, the promissory note, and the deed of trust, and our recommendation is that you approve all of those.
Okay. It's been a while since we had one of these, right good while. For the benefit of the board that probably doesn't remember exactly how it works, and the new board members, Vince, could you explain to us how this comes down?
Sure. We are basically a pass-through for this grant. It comes to us, so we will give it to the Economic Development Prospect, the company who's locating in Nashville, and they agree to provide so many jobs within a period of time. If they do that, then the loan is forgiven over 5 years. It goes to 80%, 60, 40, 20. If they do not meet the job requirements, Nash County is required to give the money back to the State Department of Commerce. That's why we have the company sign a note and a deed of trust saying that they owe us any money that we have to pay back to the state. So in the NutCal case, they didn't meet their job requirement. We had to pay money back to the state. NutCal reimbursed us under the note and deed of trust, so we got our money back.
Right.
And that's what we're doing here again. Hopefully, we won't have to get reimbursed this time.
Cool. Any questions on that?
Yeah.
Mr. Belleville?
Can there be an extension? Or you just shut it off and follow the law of rules?
Well, the way that, like he said, you can go up to 5 years. Originally, it'll be a 2-year.
Yeah, but I was saying, if in that period they didn't reach it, is it possible that you could give them an extension, a 6-month, 12-month extension?
Well, like with NutCal, after the original 2-year period, when the goal was not met, I believe we received an extension of another year, and then the extension of another year. But at the end of the 5-year period, there were no more extensions, because we're accountable to the state, and the state's accountable to the federal government for these funds. So there has to be a termination date eventually, and that's 5 years.
That answer you.
So the state doesn't give them no extension at all. They will hold the county accountable for that money if they had not met the requirement.
What they did at NutCal, Mr. Belfield, they did give them an extension at the increment levels. In other words, when they had to have 20% after X years, they gave an extension to keep working on that. But when it gets down to the final extension, there are no more extensions, is the way it worked with NutCal, and therefore we had to pay the money back, and NutCal reimbursed us. Patsy, is this one, I know some of these are events, we have substituted investment for job count sometimes. Did that allow it here, or is that another type of grant?
That is not allowed here.
That's not allowed here. Okay. Have we not done that at somewhere, Vince, and something?
Well, we do that in our inducement agreement.
In our inducement agreements, okay. Not in this particular one here with it, when we got state grant money, I got it. Any other questions? All right, entertain a motion for approval or deny the loan agreement, promissory note, and the deed of trust.
So moved.
Move for approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 15 is the public hearing and approval of another additional inducement agreement, and I'll call on Andy Haggy at this time to make this one.
Good morning again.
Good morning, sir.
This is kind of following along the same line as this project Drew, which is the Crump Group, but this pertains to the inducement agreement. But anyway, as Patsy said, it's the Crump Group's manufacturer of all natural pet treats and supplements made from Nash County and North Carolina sweet potatoes. It's a Canadian company. Over 5 years, it's going to be 160 jobs, 100 first to second year jobs, 100. And 20 million capital investment. I would like to point out that this project was a direct lead to the County Economic Development Department, thanks to one of the company's local sweet potato supplier. The company purchased the former 190,000 square foot CFE building, and the company president and CEO first visited and toured the building in April 21st. Governor Cooper announced the official location of the Crump Group to Nash County on August the 17th. So you can see this whole project's been moving pretty fast. The resolution before you is an economic development inducement agreement, which will reimburse the company 50% of the taxes for 5 years, for over 5 years. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope and recommend that the approval of the agreement, subject to final review by the company and approval of the staff and county attorney.
Okay. All right, any questions of Andy at this time? Vince, if you don't mind, for the benefit of the new members, would you explain briefly how this works also? 'Cause I remember how it was when I came on the board about these inducement agreements.
Well, no two of them are the same, but this has become the standard. Basically, we've given this company a couple of years to provide the jobs and a couple of years to upfit, the $20 million upfit of the building. Assuming they've done that, at the end of those 2 years, the next year, of course, they'll start paying property taxes on their capital investment. And based on that capital investment they pay in the third year, beginning the following year, after they have paid a full years of taxes, we will start reimbursing back to them half of the taxes they pay to us for a 5-year period. The inducement agreement also requires that they maintain and operate this site for a period of 7 years after that beginning year. And if they don't, then we have the right to request that they pay back to us half of the inducements that we paid them.
Right.
In fact, that happened with CFE.
Right.
And they paid us 50% back.
Any questions on that?
It's difficult to read. It's hard for all of us to come up with when the years start. And thank Susan and Donna particularly, and Andy, for helping me in drafting this agreement. And we're going to make this thing simpler so we can understand it better. I'm still using a draft from the former attorney for the Gateway, but I'm going to get it in my own words before long.
The important thing is this is kind of the pattern that we have developed as a board.
Correct.
And what happens is, instead of having clawback agreements, these payments are made after they pay their taxes in any given year. So we know we got what we are given an incentive for. And the only real thing is that the 7-year period that they got to stay here after all this is over with. And Mr. Lamb, you appear to be looking at me like I might have stated something wrong. Please correct me if I did. Okay. All right, so me personally like this kind of inducement agreement better than any other one if you can like inducement agreements, which we all know we are operating in a world that these are necessary, but you're not making payments until you receive payment on the taxes itself, which is, I think, the correct way to do it. Now, we may have one come to us later that's under a different method, as Mr. Durham said. Each one of them is a new item, and we just have to rely on Andy and Susan to work through them and see what it is we got to do to get the people to come to Nash County, which they've done a great job of because activity has picked up tremendously about a year into this process. And I appreciate both of them, or all three of them's hard work, quite frankly. But you got Emily out front doing the necessary work that goes with all of these, which is a tremendous amount of paperwork. But any questions on it? Seeing none? Thank you, sir. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter at this time. Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. There's a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a public hearing on this matter of the inducement agreement for the Front Group LLC. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this item at this time, we'd be glad to hear from you. You would come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no movement in the room, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion is by Commissioner Combs. There a second?
Second.
Second by, is that Sue? Or was that you? By Commissioner Wilkins, okay. All right, any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carried, public hearing is closed. Is there any more discussion from the board prior to entertain a motion? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the inducement agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you. Anybody need a break? Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll call have two commissioners ask for a 10-minute recess at this time, so we'll have a short recess. call the meeting back to order at this time. Commissioner Leggett, you with us? Thank you.
I'm here.
Thank you. We're now on item number 16, which is the salary study proposals. And Mr. Lamb, I understand you're going to make this presentation instead of Anderson, is that correct?
Yes.
I'll turn it over to you this time then.
Okay. We did receive, we were expecting 4 proposals. We only received 2. We briefly looked at them last week. And they're so far apart on price that we really need to look at them a little further. What I'm proposing is I'm going to appoint a committee this week or today that will include Anderson Kirkland, his assistant Pam Williams, Wendy Rose, also a representative from Emergency Services, since this fluctuating work week and the shift information that we've gotten in the last few months, and perhaps changing it. They have, unlike most departments, where they basically do a comparison between counties, there's some movement to actually change the structure of our work week. So I am going to ask the Scott Rogers or a designee to serve on this selection committee and to study these 2 proposals. Also, since the sheriff's office has made various requests during the last couple months, including raises, across-the-board raises, and change of work week, I'm going to ask the sheriff or his designee to also serve on that selection committee. I expect them to meet this week, if at all possible, and to have a recommendation to the board at your next meeting, whether that's a special meeting or the next month. But I anticipate y'all having a special meeting in the next week or 2. So hopefully at that time, even though I understand that meeting will be basically closed session, we can put that on the agenda also for the selection of a firm to do that salary study. And again, that would be Anderson Kirkland, Pam Williams, Wendy Rose, Stacy, a representative from the Sheriff's Office, and a representative from the Emergency Services Office. I want everyone to be comfortable with who is selected, and I think this process will assure that. So at this time, we have no recommendation.
Okay, so we will not need action on that item. To me, that sounds like a great approach to it, quite frankly. So we will move on from item number 16. Next item on the agenda is law enforcement compensation.
I believe I heard from Stacy that they could be here at 12.
Yes, they had originally requested to be here around noon, and I just no way to tell how the agenda's going to go.
Sure, I understand. All right, we will skip number 17 at this time and move to item 18. And I do not have Patsy in the room, but I do have Mr. Boone in the room, so I'm going to move from 18 to 19 and call Mr. Boone forward to go for the asset inventory and assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll turn it over to you at this time, sir. Patsy, we will catch you next, ma'am.
You may recall our meeting last month, commissioners approved a couple of resolutions related to some grant applications submitted to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. I'm happy to report that 2 of the grant applications that were submitted in the previous grant cycles, that was in the fall of 2020, the county received notification in March of this year, 2021, that 2 of those grant applications had been funded at $150,000 per application. One of the applications was for a water-related asset inventory and assessment project in the Northern Ash Water Sewer District. The second was for a sewer-related asset inventory and assessment project that was in the Central Nash Water Sewer District. So what I have before the commissioners to consider today is, although the memo references 2 resolutions, we have combined that into 1 resolution to save the chairman 1 signature, acknowledging the offer and the county's intent to accept those 2 grants. And then I have the grant agreements associated with each of the grants that will need to be signed by the county and approved in order for us to move forward. As you will note in the memo, the $150,000 grants include a 5% grant match and a 1.5% grant fee. 3.5% of the 5% grant match gets a little complicated, but 3.5% of the 5% grant match can be paid with in-kind services by the county. We certainly will have staff involved in that work, so that would actually not result in any out-of-pocket expense from the county. So that will leave us 1.5% on the grant match, 1.5% on the grant fee. So it costs the county $4,500 to match a $150,000 grant, and that's per application. So if we do the math, so $300,000 in grant funds to fund these 2 projects, and $4,500 times 2, $9,000 would be our out-of-pocket expense to do this work. The grant agreement references some conditions that are all fairly benign. The most significant of which, the work has to be completed within 24 months. We certainly not see that as being an obstacle. We actually anticipate this work being completed on before December 22. There are some other provisions. Again, they're referenced in the grant agreement. I'll be glad to answer questions about any of those that you may have, but again, they're fairly benign. But we feel confident with the applications. We're excited about this work. We think it's a foundational element for both the utilities. And we're looking forward to building on this in the years to come. But this will be a building block for our asset inventory for both the water and the sewer utilities operated by the county. So with that said, I'll be glad to entertain any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Boone? Seeing none, and we've got a resolution to approve approving me signing it, and an offer of acceptance. Can all be in 1 resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I'd entertain a motion for the A, B, and C items as stated on the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion?
Wastewater, right now, who's handling that, Rocky Mountain or Nashville?
We discharge all our wastewater to the city of Rocky Mountain for treatment.
Okay.
Other questions? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Boone. While you're there, we'll go ahead to item number 20, which is contract award for the 2021 assessment inventory assessment.
Okay, so as a result of the grants that we received, again, notification in March of 2021, the department moved forward with issuing a RFP for the work on those 2 projects. We issued that RFP in April of 2021. Those proposals were received in May of 2021. We pulled together an internal departmental committee to review those applications, of which we received 3. We've referenced the 3 firms in the memo that you have. One, Luminor Consulting Group, actually out of, I believe, Atlanta, Georgia. Matt Gay and Associates, local engineering firm I think we're all familiar with, and also the Wooten Company, who has assisted the county on a number of utility-related projects, most recently the Northern Ash Water System. Based on evaluation of those proposals, the internal departmental team recommended awarding one of those contracts, the work on the water AIA project to Matt Gay and Associates, and the second contract to the Wooten Company for the work on the sewer AIA project in the Central Nash Water Sewer District. So you have those proposals in your packet. And effectively, the scope of work of each are similar, although the actual work elements are different just because of the nature of utilities. But in essence, we're going to go out, we're going to identify all our existing assets, we're going to locate those. There'll be a GIS inventory, so we'll generate a nice map so we can see all our assets. We'll go through steps to assess the condition of that infrastructure, and then we will look at capital investments that are needed over the next 10-year planning horizon. So that is information that will fold into the capital improvement program, the budget that the commissioners receive and approve every year. And then also a condition of that grant is a rate study to look at our costs, both existing operational costs, our capital costs, and then make sure that the rates that we charge for those services are adequate to meet that financial need and that we have a sustainable utility. So again, I have contracts for both Matt Gay. You will see, again, outlines all those elements of work. The total amount for that contract is $150,000. For the Wooten Company, $151,200. But again, effectively, the work is the same. They just vary a little bit because of the nature of work. On the sewer, we will spend a lot more time on the assessment elements of the work just because of the nature of the sewer. Will involve some camera inspections. We'll actually send a camera into the system, do a visual inspection. We will do some smoke testing where we're looking for groundwater that may be infiltrating the system because, as Commissioner Belfield asked, the City of Rocky Mount ultimately treats all the wastewater that the county discharges, so any groundwater that comes into the system is money that we pay, is sewer that we end up paying the City of Rocky Mount to treat, and naturally we only want to treat wastewater, not groundwater, so that's an additional expense to the county. So we'll spend a lot of time on that. Manhole inspections, again, that infrastructure is quite a bit older, certainly than the work in the Northern Ash Water Sewer District, so that's going to require a little bit more energy and efforts by the team. But overall, again, just building the database that we need to make sure we're effectively operating these systems both now and well into the future. So that I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Boone on the two contracts? I guess both of them knew what the grant amount was, Mr. Boone.
Yes, sir, they did. We tailored the scope to the fee. Or we tailored the scope and fee to the grant amount.
Did a good job, did. Any other questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by like sign? Motion carries. Mr. Boone, you have one more short one. Why don't you finish up, and then we'll have Patsy come up next. Item number 20.
Yes, sir, thank you. As you may be aware, the county leases space in the Relic Volunteer Fire Department. This is a space that the fire department used to occupy prior to building the new facility adjacent to Ennis Park. I believe we've been in that building for about 11 years, which corresponds, as you would expect, with their relocation to the new building. Previous lease was a 2-year lease with 4 2-year extensions, so 10 years. Came to our attention, the lease actually expired this past August. So the document that you have in front of you is basically a renewal of that lease. Effectively, it's the same terms as the previous lease, same monthly rental rate. And the only substantive change is amending the term of the agreement to a single 5-year term and 2 optional 5-year extensions, so potentially taking us 15 years. So that's it, fairly straightforward. Identical terms. Did have a discussion with Brian Brantley prior to his retirement, announced retirement regarding the lease, and he was in favor of renewing the lease. We've also been in contact with Mayor Langley, who is our representative with the Volunteer Fire Department, and he was amenable to renewing the lease based on the existing terms. So that is the document that you have in front of you for consideration today.
Okay. Any questions on this, Mr. Outlaw?
You said we had had that building for 11 years?
I believe that is correct. The
At the
original,
rate of $1,100 a month?
that is correct.
Has there ever been any consideration given to purchasing? Because in 11 years at that rate, you've already paid $145K.
I would have to defer to.
I mean, is that a possibility?
We approached that when we first leased it, and there wasn't any interest in it. I don't know whether it would be changed now or not.
Okay. So you're looking at 10 more years, probably at least.
Well, it's optional extension, so
Yeah.
we actually, there are terms in the lease, we could terminate the lease with,
Yeah.
I believe, a 60-day notice if we were to broach the subject with the volunteer fire department and they had an interest in selling the building, we could terminate the lease with.
I guess
within
my
60
point
days.
is, we're going to have about $250,000 close to it in that lease agreement in the next 10 years, so, you know, I don't know much about that kind of thing, but it seems like a lot of money. If we could purchase it, it seems like it would be better.
Right. If there's an interest, certainly we'll be glad to approach the fire department about the possibility of acquiring the building.
Wouldn't hurt to ask.
Glad to do it.
Okay. Other questions?
Now, the assessment of, do we really need it?
Do we really need the building?
Building,
We really need a building.
Yeah.
yeah.
In that area, yes.
My knowledge of the area, you know, there's limited inventory, so in the absence of this building, we'd likely be looking at a scenario where we'd build a building if we decided not to lease or purchase the existing building. That was not an option.
Well, I like working with communities, but it just, we ought to look at this, what we're being assessed with that building over, what, 11-year period versus building one.
Well, I don't think we could build one for near what we're paying for the lease, because I think, I remember over here at the hospital, it was like $1.5 million, something like that, and that was way back, so.
We have got an extremely good lease here.
Yeah.
I will tell you
Yeah.
that. Extremely
Well, I
good.
look at it,
I wouldn't want to do anything to damage the relationship with that lease, but they
I
might
wouldn't
be
either.
wanting to sell it.
I wouldn't either, but you're talking about probably maybe it's a possibility of when that one run out, you're going to renew, and you, first thing you know, you bought the building, and you still don't own it.
Correct. I understand the question.
Hey, is this where the rescue squad is? I'm where the EMS is.
Call for the question, Mr. Chairman.
I have a call for the question. I entertain a motion for approval of the lease.
So moved. Or second.
Made by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm going to move back up now to item number 18 and call on Ms. McGee to come forward for presenting this.
Thank you.
Good morning again.
Now I'm going to talk to you about the Down East Home Consortium. After much consideration over the past couple of years, the Down East Home Consortium, led in the past few months by City of Rocky Mount Interim Business and Community Development Director Peter Varney, has worked with the former and present local government members to develop a plan for moving forward with the utilization of funds. The City of Rocky Mount remains the lead agency per the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development of the Down East Home Consortium. Although Nash County is no longer a member of the Down East Home Consortium, there are remaining funds allocated for previous years that need to be utilized in Nash County. Nash County proposes to administer its part of the Down East Home Consortium program with assistance from a qualified consultant, as we do all of our housing programs. As in the past, this will include rehabilitation of owner-occupied, low to moderate income, single-family housing within Nash County, with priority given to households located in the jurisdictions of current then members of the Down East Home Consortium within Nash County, which would include Bailey, Dorches, Middlesex, Nashville, Sharpsburg, Spring Hope, Whitakers, and Nash County outside of Rocky Mount, particularly those local governments that have remaining unspent allocations. It will also include administration of current year funds for municipalities located wholly or partly in Nash County, which includes Middlesex, Sharpsburg, Spring Hope, and Whitakers. And the City of Rocky Mount will continue to administer the funds for housing projects within its jurisdiction. And Edgecombe County and Tarboro will administer funds for housing projects within their jurisdictions. So in your packet is the Home Investment Partnership Fund Reconciliation Agreement, and our recommendation is to approve the agreement. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? And this has been a long time coming. I appreciate your persistence on it and greatly appreciate Mr. Varney coming back to work for a period of time, and this has probably been the one thing he has concentrated on the most to bring this to a point where it can be finished up sooner than later. So if you have any questions, Ms. McGee, she'll be glad to answer them.
I have one.
Sure.
Is there a breakdown of the funds between Bailey, Dorches, Middlesex, Nashville, Whitaker, Spring Hope, Sharpsburg, and the City of Rocky Mount?
We do have those allocations, and we can get that to you.
Okay,
Yes.
I'd like to see that, please.
Okay. I'll send it to all the board.
Other questions? Patsy, I know I've been to those meetings with you. What do we project the time limit is to get those funds spent? 2 years, 3 years?
2 years
2
is
years,
what we're
okay.
shooting for.
Okay, all right. And I know you've got quite a few applications already, and pretty much several of them ready to actually be bid before too long.
That's right. And once we approve it, then next week Rocky Mount will approve it. Edgecombe County and Tarboro will approve it. And then once all that happens, we'll put out a request for qualifications for a consultant. Once we get the consultant on board, then we should be ready to bid possibly up to about 15 housing rehabs at that time.
Gotcha, okay. All right, if there's no more questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you again, Ms. McGee.
Thank you.
All right, we're now on item number 22, which is a grant project ordinance amendment 12. I'll call on Donna Wood to make this presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The project ordinance amendments presented for the following items: to extend the Upper Coastal Plain Council of Government Area Agency on Aging Community-Supported Agricultural CSA boxes. This is through the CARES Act Nutrition Program, managed through Nash County Farmers Market for homebound older adults. And this program is extended to June 30th, 2022, with $181,716 for the program funding. The next item is to add $2,525 from the state-provided CARES Act funding to the Nash County Department of Social Services for CARES Act 4B1 program to ensure the safety, permanency, and well-being of children and families involved in the child welfare during the pandemic. And the last item of the amendment is to adjust the funding allocation categories for the coronavirus relief funds established under the CARES Act for proper reporting, and to recognize investment earnings on the program, which was $233.
All right, any questions on those? On this one, which has 3 parts? If no questions, I entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve the project ordinance amendment.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well. Item number 23 is a capital project ordinance amendment. Ms. Wood?
Okay, this is for the detention facility renovation and expansion. So this is submitted for approval to increase the available funding based on the $16 million installment financing with Sterling Bank, and to update the budgeted expenditure categories to include the construction cost. The construction bid was awarded to Daniels & Daniels Construction Company to include interior renovations to accommodate a new intake and booking area, in addition to the detention facility intended to provide up to 94 additional beds and related containment cells, as well as converting an existing open concept dorm with 20 bed containment cells that would provide for a total of 27 beds. The funding and project expenditures for the conversion of the existing open concept dorm of approximately $2 million, which is part of the project, are part of the planned use of funds for the American Rescue Plan awarded to Nash County, and they've been budgeted separately.
Okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item number 24 are our monthly budget amendments, or usually monthly, just could be more.
Okay. The first item I have is with the Sheriff's Office. This is a budget amendment. This budget amendment appropriates Nash County's portion of joint grant application with the City of Rocky Mount for the 2021 Justice Assistance Grant, the JAG grant. The Nash County Sheriff's Office will be utilizing the funding for 2 projects. The first project will be to complete an upgrade and reprogramming of all the handheld and in-car radios due to the technological changes in the state system. The second project will be to fund 2 Flock safety pole-mounted license plate readers. These will be utilized to deter and investigate crime in hotspot areas of the county. It's $15,564, and no county funds are required. The next item is our insurance proceeds with the Sheriff's Office. This budget amendment is to budget insurance proceeds received for 2 Sheriff's Office vehicles identified as totaled. These funds will be used to purchase a replacement vehicle, including upfit and equipment supplied to use towards replacement of a car camera. It's $43,299, and no county funds at this point. The next item is Cooperative Extension Farmers Market. This budget amendment is to establish a community agricultural support box program for the general public. This program will be similar to the Upper Coastal Plains CSA box program. However, these boxes will be available for sale for the general public. We're requesting $8,600 with income to offset the expenditures of the program, so no county funds are required. The next item is senior services. At the time the budget was adopted, final funding had not been set for the caregiver grant. This amendment is to adjust the budget to accommodate the additional funds received from the caregiver grant program, $1,353. No county funds are requested. The next item is also senior services. This budget amendment is to budget a donation to support the Senior Center Home Delivered Meals Program. It's a $25,000 donation, and no county funds are requested. The next item is Parks and Recreation. This budget amendment is to budget sponsorship support collected for fall sports events, $7,698. No county funds are required. The next item is our solid waste fund. This budget amendment is to budget solid waste fund balance to purchase a used compactor to replace the current compactor, which has been in place for 20 years, and we're not planning to repair it due to the cost of the repair and its age. So we're requesting $250,000 from fund balance from the solid waste program. And the last item I have is with federal asset forfeiture funds. This amendment is to budget asset forfeiture fund balance for the purchase of one vehicle, including taxes and tags. It's $27,421. No county funds are required.
Okay, that's 8 budget amendments. Any questions on either of those?
I have one. The asset forfeiture, it said to purchase one vehicle. Is that one Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay. And then just for clarification, under senior services, I thought I heard her say 2,500 and it's 25,000, so.
That's correct.
I
It is
just want
$25,000.
clarification for someone listening.
Right, you are correct. It is a $25,000 donation.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Just this LPR, these license plate readers, do you know how those things function? I've never heard that term.
I'm not exactly sure. I think they somehow sit on the front of the vehicles and can, or inside the sheriff's vehicles, and they can read license plates.
So they're just going to have it on 1 or 2 vehicles, or maybe Major Wilson could elaborate on that a little bit?
They currently have,
I'm just not familiar with it.
yeah, they currently have those, and apparently they can read license plates and trace it within a matter of seconds.
But are they on all the vehicles?
No.
No.
I think there was
Just
on
the
interdiction team, I'm
Oh,
sure.
okay, okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah, it reads it and gives you the information almost in, if any charges or anything they got, almost.
Okay, so it's quicker than just calling it in?
Oh, much quicker, yeah, it is.
All right, thank you. Just wasn't familiar with it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the 2 totaled vehicles, I'm just wondering, I wasn't totally aware of that. Was anyone injured?
They were older vehicles, so the money is just coming in now due to the timeline.
Oh, so it wasn't a wreck, it was just their,
I would have to go, but one of the vehicles may have been one of the vehicles in the accident that we had.
okay.
So I can't guarantee. I'm pretty sure one of them didn't have an injured, but I'm not sure about the other one.
I just didn't know anything about any injuries, so I'm hoping.
I don't think we had any injuries because I asked that night when I saw it, and I was told all people were okay.
Good, good. Thank you.
Did I call for a motion on those 8 items? I think I did. Have we already approved them?
No.
Madam Clerk?
You didn't call yet.
I hadn't asked for a motion yet. Okay. I entertain a motion for the 8 items, budget amendments.
Make a motion, we approve the budget amendments.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on either of those 8 items? I was there already, wasn't I? Anyway, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Budget amendment stand approved. I am curious, how long did it take us to get permission to replace that compactor, Mr. Lane?
He, he doesn't like to spend much money, but.
I understand that.
This one, the repair cost was over $100,000, and he's found a used one.
Right.
In Tennessee, I believe.
Yep.
So,
I remember reading that maybe in the last health meeting. I read the minutes of that. I remember seeing it before.
yeah, he makes a dollar go a long way.
Yeah, he does indeed. All right, we're now on the next item, which is board appointments, number 25.
Good morning.
She's already ready. Good morning.
Yes, sir. The first appointment we have is for the Nash County Board of Adjustments. We actually need an alternate member number 2 and number 3. And there is an application in your packet for Terry Williams, and he is being recommended by Commissioner Wilkins.
All right. Any questions on that one? Anything you want to say, Ms. Wilkins?
I've just known him for years, and he's a very upstanding member in the community. He pastors a local church, and he's served on quite a few boards before, and I think he would be excellent as alternate member number 2 on the Board of Adjustments, replacing me.
Okay. And you're coming down by being a commissioner, I remember that now. Okay. Is that a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve Terry Williams to the alternate member number 2, Board of Adjustment.
Okay, have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw, Commissioner Leggett. Any questions? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? Appointment stands approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
And then the next one is for the Nash County Planning Board. We have a vacancy on the planning board. There's an application in your packet for Philip Brannon. He is being recommended by Chairman Davis.
All right, I was one of the districts that didn't have a representative on the planning board. If you recall the discussion we had, Philip Brannigan, I think, will make an excellent one. He is with the All Red Mechanical Company that does a lot of work for the county, number 1, but he also worked many years for the city of Rocky Mount in the planning and inspections department, should know the process very well. He was the HVAC inspector for the city for, I don't recall how long, but quite a lengthy time. So, and he does live in District 7, and I request that we approve him for this seat. And I will put that as a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Any other appointments?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll move to item number 26, which is our monthly tax report for the record. Giving you a workout today, Megan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
At this time, I'd like to present the monthly tax report. And as you said, as you know, this report is designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax collector's office. The report is for your information only and does not require approval. However, it is recommended that you accept the report so that it'll be noted in the minutes. And if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Questions on the report? Seeing none, we'll accept it for the minutes, and thank you, ma'am. We'll move to item number 27,
Yes.
tax refund.
Yes, sir, thank you. At this time, we do not have any refunds for consideration for this month's report.
Must have been doing everything right then. Item number 28 is a release request.
Yes, sir. Okay, so now that's where we had a little hiccup.
Okay.
Oh, yes. On this release request, we're asking approval for one of our taxpayers, Consolidated Diesel staff, recently contacted us after they received their tax bill concerning their personal property value. And upon review of their bill, it was discovered that our office had unfortunately made a keying error, resulting in an overcharge. The error apparently occurred while staff was processing an economic obsolescence adjustment for a production line that is now idle and will be removed from service. The amount of taxable personal property equipment value was incorrectly keyed into the system as $114,183,814, but actually should have been keyed in at $64,183,814. This resulted in their overall taxable being overstated by $50 million, and therefore they were overcharged by $377,500. Therefore, we're requesting a release in the amount of $377,500, which will result in their new tax bill reflecting a payable amount of $1,609,177.98. And we, of course, have apologized to the taxpayer, and we are asking for your approval to release that so that we can correct their tax bill.
What year is this? The year where we just got the bill?
Yes, sir, 2021. Mm-hmm.
How long did it take them to call you? Not long, did it?
Not long. No, sir, not long.
I like your description of a little hiccup.
A little
Any
hiccup.
questions on this item? Seeing none, let's see, we actually need a motion. Entertain a motion for approval of this request by Ms. Sumner.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Motion carries, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate everything you do. Stacy, it was thought that they would be here at 12 o'clock.
That's what the request was for.
Okay, okay. We'll make that work. We'll be here that long. We are now completed with 28 agenda items. I do appreciate the cooperation of the board. I was told this is the longest agenda with more items than we had ever had in Nash County, and we have gone through it pretty darn quickly. I think one thing that has helped a lot, and I don't know who put the bill on the floor to change the way we have to do zoning requests or certain kinds of them, but it sure speeded up the meeting quite a bit. Appreciate whoever came up with that idea. But we're now on item number 29, which is commissioner comments, and be glad to hear from any commissioner that has comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, sir.
Just mentioned that in November, we've got Tri-County as our outside presentation, and it would also give us an opportunity to meet the new head of that organization. And I'm hopeful that I'm not speaking out of turn, that we've got Board of Elections slated to come in.
I have not reached out to him yet, but that's.
For the inside presentation without objection and in the absence of any other recommendation. Since that is preceding the election period that's coming up, it might be insightful to hear from the Board of Elections.
You say, what was the word, exciting to hear from the Board of Elections?
Insightful.
Okay. Could be both.
Yeah. Well,
All
I
right.
think it would be interesting to hear from John and what he's.
Absolutely. I think John normally watches our meetings, so he probably has noticed. Stacy?
I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I think our next internal and external presentations are in January.
Correct.
So we've talked about a potential internal presentation, and I've shared that with Stacy, Ms. Schatzer, and I'll just kind of hold on that until we get a little closer and you've had some opportunity to follow up on that. But if you have any recommendations for these presentations, it's not just a time to listen to anything. We want to hear something that is informative and something that would provide information that would be useful to us in the performance of our responsibility. So please let myself know or let Ms. Schatzer know. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments from the board? I'll make just a few. First of all, I am very pleased on the permit, a new home report for the month that each of us got right at the end of the week, but I don't recall, this may be the largest number we've had, but it was 55 new homes permits for the month, and I do include manufacturing homes because if you watch those reports, the value of those have gone up tremendously as well, many of them well over $200,000. But the average home price, if you take off 55 of the new houses, was $205,280, and that has climbed tremendously over the last 6 or 8 months as well. And out of 55 new homes, what fascinates me the most, it was 25 different builders that applied for those, or a few of them homeowners building their own home. But to have 25, probably at least 20 builders working in Nash County is great. And for Dan and Sue's benefit, 17 of those permits were issued on Stony Hill Church Road. So that project that we approved some time ago is really pulling permits down pretty rapidly. But I think that's a great report, and it shows that Nash County is definitely growing. I still remain concerned about the number of vacancies for the administration that we have in the county staff. I will speak for the board, and when we approve our budget each year, we allot so much money for salaries and all, and we run along most of the time with 20, 25 vacancies. I think Amy, at the present time, your report that I got recently said you had 13. And if it's anything that we're not doing that we could do, I hope at some point we can, it won't ever happen, but get close as we can say every position we have is filled, because when the board approves them, with 13 vacancies in one department, I can't help but think that some employees are being required to work extremely hard, and it's greatly appreciated by this board. But anything we might could do, I feel like, and of course this is a selfish statement, but I think this should be a good county to work in, and we try our best as a board to look after our employees. But I think I sent an email to administration a week or so ago about some thoughts running through my head in the middle of the night of some things we might could do with job fairs and more social media. I did notice recently that adjoining county had a very extensive social media post about all their positions open, and recently I used social media to fill a position I had, and I was absolutely amazed at how many applicants I got or phone calls through that posting. So if we don't do that, maybe that's something we could try. The next thing that I made note of is the capital improvement plan that we have been doing for a number of years now, that is in our monthly updates, and I really appreciate those monthly updates. There's a lot of information in those, and I know it takes some time to do it. But that is, I would just suggest the commissioners just roll down through that whole list of what we have accomplished since we've been doing that report, because you're going to get well into it about two-thirds down before you get to what we're currently working on, and you'll see everything that we have completed. And we used to have a real hard time getting capital improvement projects from funding level to getting them built. But this thing, Mr. Lamb, that you came up with a number of years ago in the meetings that y'all have, certainly have worked very well. And I'm just amazed at what we were able to accomplish, and you just figure up the dollar amounts. I didn't total that up, but to see what we've done with our tax rate and then see what we have accomplished on the capital improvement side, I think is a testimony to the staff that we have and how we go about our capital improvements and are able to get many things done. I always think it take way too long, but I'm sure if I compare it to other counties, it's probably not near as long as some of them are. At some point, my goal was to see government operate like private industry, but it's sometimes hard to do with the amount of regulations that we have. The other thing, we usually do service awards once a year, but I was made aware of one this morning on break that we have, and I know we all think so much of her. We want to take a special occasion to recognize our clerk, who I understand had an anniversary the first day of the month, maybe, and possibly as many as 25 years. How far off are we? Exactly. So this 25, she had been with the county October the 1st for 25 years, and certainly want to appreciate that. And I appreciate Commissioner Outlaw's wife letting us know that on the break this morning. I probably wouldn't have had a way of knowing that till we get to December. Let me look at my notes right quickly. I believe that's all I had. Indeed it is. Mr. Lamb, I'll turn it over to you,
Commissioner Davis, when you finish, I've got a comment.
Sure. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. I've got two things I'd like to comment today, so just if y'all could bear with me a minute.
Glad to.
I guess I'm trying to make up a little time for us being so quick today, so just bear with me. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So first, I'd like to take a moment to recognize one of Nash County's fire rescue departments, Momeyer Fire Rescue. This department recently completed the training needed to become Swift Water Rescue Technical Certified. This training encompassed over 100 hours of training, which included swimming, boat and raft training, and live river simulations. Specifically, the swim portion required trainees to swim 250 meters and tread waters for 10 minutes at a minimum. Their successful completion of this intensive training allows Momire Fire Rescue to move forward with state certification for swiftwater rescue. Requirement of the certification is that they have at least 10 or more members who hold the current training on that topic, which they will have. Momire Fire Rescue is one of 4 rescue providers in Nash County, the others being Stony Creek Rescue, Cooper's Fire Rescue, and Bailey Fire Department. Momire already maintains state certifications and training in vehicle and machinery rescue, high-angle technical rescue, and confined space rescue. All fire and rescue departments in our county rely heavily on volunteers who give their time and commitment to serve their fellow citizens. Momire's pursuit of this additional certification affirms their passion for the safety of our citizens, especially considering the change in weather patterns and more frequent flooding experienced recently. As the commissioner representing the Momire community, I wanted to express my heartfelt appreciation to them for their tireless work to provide excellent rescue services to Nash County. Then my second comment that I'd like to make is I'd like to recognize Mr. Brian Brantley. Mr. Brantley has served our county emergency services for many years. Brian recently retired effective October 1st, 2021. Brian served for many years as Emergency Services Director, overseeing EMS, Emergency Telecommunications, Fire Marshal's Office, and Emergency Operations. Brian always provided dedicated leadership for our county and this county department, always being there for each and every one of his employees and being there for the citizens of Nash County as a whole in each emergency and disaster that affected our area. I'm proud that Mr. Brantley has brought Nash County so far ahead in the caliber of emergency services that we provide, and I want to wish him all the best in his retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Leggett. I think Mr. Lamb is going to update the board on that in his manager comments. I did miss one item, my number 2 on my minutes, on my notes that I had made I'd like to bring up. And it's a concern that I have that I've mentioned one time before very briefly, but we get planning board minutes sent to the board in a packet that we get each month, and it has the minutes that were approved. But Mr. Lamb, if you could take note and see what we can do. Presently, we are either 6 or 7 months behind on planning board minutes. And it concerns me, and I'm sure the other board members, that we don't have those available. It's just not like us in Nash County not to have them available. I have no clue what the problem is. If it's short staff, if we could bring something to the board to let us know what we need to do. If it's proper training, we got the master sitting at the end of the table there with you on prepared minutes. I don't know what the issue is, but it's just not like us to have something lingering like that. And Vince, I don't know if we're required to produce paper minutes or if recorded minutes are legal at a planning board. I don't need an answer for that, but I just think that matter needs some attention and to get us back up where we should be with those planning board minutes. I think the last ones that were approved were for February, according to the last note that I saw. I'm not sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, it's been addressed recently.
Okay, well, good. I'll just say that, and then I'm going to turn it over to the manager's report, sir.
Okay.
Before you turn it over to the
Yes, sir.
manager's report,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make one comment.
Please.
Because I've done it before, but I just want to keep it on the back burner.
Yes, sir.
I think Nash County should take a look at affordable housing.
You have mentioned
It
that
may
before.
be public or private, but we need to take a look at it in Nash County, because I don't think we have it. I believe Middlesex, the town of Middlesex has, anyway, it's located in the town of Middlesex, affordable apartments. And I just think we in Nash County ought to take a look at that and see where we can go from there.
Okay. Sure Mr. Lamb made a note of that. Do we not have some here in Nashville, Mr. Belfield? I for some reason think we do.
Yeah, come to think of it, they do. Town of Nashville, Richardson project over there near where the school used to be.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it. but
Okay.
I just think we need to
Understood.
expand on it. Probably out in the rural areas may need some affordable housing too.
Mr. Lamb?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Employee United Way annual campaign will take place at the end of the month from October 18th through October 29th. We urge all employees to participate, and we will have several activities in furtherance of that campaign. I've previously announced that we're going to have a committee to look at the personnel study, pay study proposals, and we will have something, a first meeting this week, so we will keep you in touch on that. The Veteran Service Office served 209 veterans in September. The August sales tax collections were $1,469,000. As you may recall, the July numbers were almost 1.8 million, so we are far ahead of budget at this point, and so sales taxes continue to come in a very healthy way. The Land Use Planning Committee, I got a recommendation from Mr. Tyson. I believe he consulted the chairman of the planning board and the chairman of the commissioners, and recommended a 10-person committee to oversee over the next year the land use plan development. On that committee are District 1 Commissioner Marvin Arrington, District 7 Commissioner Robbie Davis, District 4 Commissioner Sue Leggett, Planning Board members Kim Moore, the Vice Chairman DeLeon Parker, the Chairman Kevin Smith, and member Ethan Vester, and then staff that will be on that committee are Adam Tyson, Adam Culpepper, Jonathan Boone, and Susan Phelps. I appreciate all them agreeing to serve. It's going to be a probably 9-month to a year-long process. So I do want to say that the ARP committee continues to meet. And I just want to make clear to the public, and I know the commissioners know this, but it's a work in progress. It's an $18 million pass down from the federal government. We got half of it in May. We'll get the other half this May. It's a 4-year spend out. I just want to, there's been some misconceptions in the press that things are set in stone, and I just want everybody to know it is very fluid. Things like broadband that we set aside money for is going to require legislative act to clear the way for local governments to spend their money on broadband. There is a movement in the General Assembly to allow that. Most every other state in the United States allows that money to be used for broadband, but North Carolina does not at this point, according to the School of Government. And so it's just really important that everybody realize, such as the $100 initiative for students to get vaccinated. That requires Board of Education approval, and it is out there, and whether it actually is implemented or not will largely depend on whether the Board of Education approves that initiative. We do have several vacancies, particularly in DSS, health, detention. We have very few now in emergency services. EMS, I believe, has 1 vacancy. I think everybody knows that there are fast food stores you can't even go in because they have such a shortage of staff. Governments across the state and the nation are having trouble getting people employed. I do know that things like DSS and health takes very specialized people. One of the problems is you can't just hire anyone. They have to have certain qualifications, and despite continuous advertising by Human Resources, we continue to have a tough time filling some of these positions. But we will look at other ways to encourage applications, including job fairs and other efforts. Following up on Commissioner Leggett's comments about Mr. Brantley, he has retired. 8 years ago, he requested the board to put in a number 2 person in that department. It's a very large department. In many counties, it's 3 departments. But he did that for succession purposes and named Scott Rogers in the number 2 position. And at this time, on Thursday, I made him the interim emergency services director. I intend, if I am so authorized, and we're still looking at the statute, there is some language that says the emergency management position must be appointed or ratified by the commissioners. That's one of our 3 divisions, is emergency management. So I was planning to announce that we're going forward with an appointment, but I want to clarify, or if the board wishes to make that, wants a recommendation from me who to make the permanent emergency services director, I'm in a position today to do that, and just to be safe, I would request that the board ratify that recommendation, since it is kind of gray with this emergency management, and the emergency services person is in charge of emergency management, 911, and EMS. So I don't want to overstep my authority under the statute, so, and that's really all I have. I would very much say that for the last 8 years, Scott Rogers has worked under Mr. Brantley and is prepared to take over the job. And so if y'all would like me to make a recommendation today, I will. If you want me to come back, I will do that also.
Be sure we understand, you're saying emergency management needs the blessing of the board.
That's correct.
That one position.
That one position, which we have it as a number 3 position.
Right. So if we take that action, then it's back in your court.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the easiest thing to do would just be have y'all vote on the appointment of a new emergency services director, which encompasses that statutory emergency management position. Because the emergency services director is the lead emergency management person.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Any questions of the board on what he stated?
So am I to understand, because of statute, this is why the position is not advertised? It's an appointment?
It's not because, that's not why it's not advertised. That's why it's great. The emergency management position in most counties is a separate department. And often they might have 911 under them. I guess some counties, they have EMS under them. But instead of emergency management, we've got a higher structure that's called the Emergency Services Director, who is also the head of emergency management, 911, and EMS. The reason we're not required to post a job and advertise it. In this case, Mr. Rogers has been the assistant. He's not promised the position, but he has clearly got the support of a lot of people out in the community and among the staff, and I think he would be an excellent choice. If it's the wishes of the board that we advertise, we can certainly do that, but I really believe we've got the person right here in Nash County that can do the job.
So what you need is a motion to appoint Scott Rogers as Emergency Services Director.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion, I have 2 seconds.
3.
3.
3 seconds, excuse me, 4 seconds. Going once, going twice. Any questions on the motion? Any questions on the motion? I think we're all together, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed by a light sign? Sorry, Sue. Motion carries, sir.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. All right, I'm going to move back to item number 17, which is, we've moved beyond because of a time Pacific that we were trying to work to, and I'll call on Major Allen Wilson at this time to come forward and make the presentation. This is a presentation on an item coming out of the Sheriff's Department that Major Wilson has worked on for a period of time. He has worked with staff, he has worked with the manager. I have been involved in it myself just a little bit, but with that said, I'm going to turn it over to him. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, sir. Is it okay if I take my mask off so you could hear me?
It is, sir.
All right.
It's preferred, quite frankly.
Mr. Chairman, I have some handouts I'd like to give the members of the board, if that's acceptable.
That's fine.
Thank you, Maj.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, I got one right here. First of all, thank you all for letting me have the opportunity to come and speak to you. And I'll be as brief as I can and go through and then answer any questions that the board may have. I've tried to lay it out so that it's pretty self-explanatory as I go through it. The purpose of me being here today is to request a look at the policy change concerning overtime pay and what I like to call gap time pay for patrol deputies and detention officers. As I go through, I'll kind of lay it out, and I think it'll make sense. Federal law, under the federal labor law, basically indicates that there's a special exemption for local governments to work with law enforcement. Fire and detention officers are also included in that. And they can work in excess of 40 hours per week in a 28-day cycle. They can work up to 171 hours without any compensation for the time over 160, for the time over the 40 hours per week on average. And that special exemption is made for law enforcement through the federal law. The work schedules that we have in the sheriff's office, other divisions such as our investigative division, our civil division, they work 160 hours. The patrol division and our detention division, in order to provide 24-hour coverage, 7 days a week, the schedule that they work in order to basically provide the minimum amount of staff needed to protect the citizens on our calls and to provide adequate coverage inside our detention facility, it requires them to work 12-hour shifts. And that 12-hour shift equates to 168 hours in a 28-day cycle. That's basically 8 hours over a 40-hour work week every 28-day cycle. There's 13 28-day cycles in a year, and that equates up to 104 hours every year that these officers have to work extra, just to provide what we call the minimum amount of coverage. And it's very difficult with the number of officers that we have on the street in our patrol division and the number of officers that we have in our detention facility to give them compensatory time back and give that back to them. So my goal today is to address that difference in the work hours between the 160 that the other divisions work and the 168 that these two divisions work, the patrol division and our detention officers. Currently, the Nash County policy, and I have a copy of that attached, and also have a copy of the federal law that's attached as well. So I try to attach some supporting documents for you to look at. The Nash County policy currently addresses overtime for law enforcement begins at 171, and there's no mention of any hours between 160 and 171. When I personally called someone in Raleigh for the Federal Labor and Standards, they basically said that law enforcement has this special exemption so that local governments, when law enforcement has to work over and above when certain situations arise, that it doesn't basically affect their budget, because lots of times their budget is not made for those special events that law enforcement may have to go to. So there was an exemption made for law enforcement with that. Everyone else, in non-law enforcement, they're based off a 40-hour work week, and anything over 40 hours, they're provided some type of compensation for it. So when I started looking at, well, what is it between the time between 160 and 171, the term gap time arose. And gap time is, although federal labor law does not require the county to compensate law enforcement for those gap time hours from 160 to 171, it basically does not mean that the county cannot adopt a policy that addresses that and prevents that from occurring. There's other agencies around that address that, and their employees are given time for anything they work in excess of 160 or in excess of the 2-week pay period in excess of 80. The state of North Carolina has basically addressed this same issue, and I've also attached this. The Office of State Human Resource Manual, gap time is addressed is those hours between 160 and 171. And law enforcement employees, state law enforcement, they will receive, according to the Human Resource Manual, they will receive straight time pay or compensatory time, it depends on the agency, for those gap hours worked. So any hours above 160 up to 171, the state requires that law enforcement receive it. And I know, working as a prior state employee, I know that in fact did occur. And I attached a copy of that state resource manual, that section, for your review. I know that the State Highway Patrol has implemented this into their overtime policy, and they have it written out very clearly how it is to be addressed, so that troopers, when they work above 160, any hours above 160, they're given back. We also, inside the Sheriff's Office, we partner with the federal agencies as well. In the federal government, those law enforcement agencies, and we have an employee who worked there and now works with us, he's retired. In fact, anything over 160 for federal law enforcement, they receive compensatory time back for that, or either they get paid for that, one or the other. So even though the federal law allows local governments to do it, the state says we're not going to do it. And even the federal government says they're not going to do it. They're going to compensate their law enforcement for anything over 160. So when looking at some prior history, I know that a previous board, is my understanding that approximately maybe 10 years ago, our communications center was allowed compensation for any hours over their 40-hour work week. And personally, I think it's a great decision that they made. And the reason I think it's a great decision because Communications Center, the Nash County Communications Center, is a lifeline not only to the citizens of this county, but most definitely to our officers on the street. And they have to work a very similar schedule to what our officers on the street, our patrol division, and what our detention officers work in order to cover 24/7. And for them to give time back as compensatory time in lieu of comp time back in lieu of being paid would make an extreme hardship on them. So a previous board made that decision from my understanding, and it still stands today, and that helps them greatly in providing the coverage they need to answer 911 calls and to keep people working where they need to work. I can tell you within the Sheriff's Office, particularly most recently, we've implemented very strict guidelines concerning overtime efforts in order to reduce the overtime efforts. Anything that works over, anybody that works and develops compensatory time is documented as to why that time was obtained and what the plan is to keep comp time at a minimum amount. And just looking at it over the last cycle, I have some figures that are put in, and with those figures you can see less than just slightly half of them work over 160 hours. So if we're able to try to keep it to that, but to keep everybody under 160 with the comp time is extremely difficult, extremely difficult. So here's what I'm asking the board to look at, two different things. With the handouts that I gave you, I'm requesting that the board consider revising the current overtime policy for law enforcement to include gap time hours covered, to make it consistent with the state of North Carolina and what they are doing with their employees, particularly with our law enforcement. This change in policy will ensure that the officers that we have working, our patrol deputies, that have to work 24/7, and we can't afford to give them the time off, and our detention staff, in order to cover our detention facility, it ensures that our law officers are being compensated in line with other employees of the county for the time that they are providing in the workplace. Just like the state of North Carolina has implemented gap time for law enforcement to make it consistent with other state employees. So that's the first request I'm asking you to look at and consider revising the overtime for law enforcement, not to make it 171, but account for those hours between 160 and 171. And then the second request that I'm asking is, if that is passed and granted, that the hours between 160 and 168 for our patrol division and 160 and 168 for our detention staff who have to be there and work and cover those calls, then instead of giving them compensatory time off, that we give them pay for those 8 hours, or less than 8 hours, as most of it's going to turn out to be, because we will manage it and try to give them time off to keep it as low as we can and give them pay for that. And if we can do that, then we actually will have more manpower in our facility and more manpower on the street by not having people take time off where they've actually accumulated compensatory time. So that's what I'm asking the board to do, if they'll consider looking at our current policy, which I have also attached, and revising it to match or mirror what the state policy, Human Resources, has.
Phaedra, is your request for the second item at straight time or?
Straight time, yes,
straight
sir.
time? Okay, just want to be sure I understand.
Yes, sir.
that. Okay. All right. Any other members of the board have questions of Major Wilson at this time? I will tell you, it's a very complicated, I don't like the word issue, opportunity. It's taken me quite a while myself to understand what we're really doing, but I've about got my understanding of it. But just, you got any questions of what he's presented? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lamb, with the complexity of this, before the board makes any decision on the request, I would feel like the staff needs to have the opportunity to give us an explanation of how, a recommendation or an explanation of how the staff feels about it, either now or at a later date, whichever you so prefer, sir.
Yeah, I don't have a recommendation right now. You've heard one side. I'd like to hear if there are other counties in North Carolina that have adopted the state plan, and if so, how many counties? Every county I've ever been to, it was the current system. But there may be counties in North Carolina that have gone to a 160. When you go from 168 to 160, you divide 168 by 160, and that's 5%. That's a 5% increase for your average, for your per hour pay. I don't have enough information right now. I would hope that this salary study can look at these issues that they're addressing and make a recommendation to the commissioners as part of the implementation of the salary study. But again, until we can look at and see what other counties are doing, the fact that a state or federal agency does it one way does not mean that it is in the best interest of the county to do it that way. So I hesitate to support the effort, but I'm not ready to say that it doesn't have merit. I think it requires study. Most flawed public policy decisions are flawed because you don't get the whole story. You get half of the information. So I think before this board acts, there needs to be more research and analysis to the proposal.
All right, questions from board members or Mr. Lamb?
And when you said more research, you're not talking about the sheriff's office, you're talking about the staff and the commissioners.
Right.
More research.
And the pay study, and to compare it to what other counties in North Carolina. There's 100 counties in North Carolina, and I'd like to know what other counties do. And this will be a big ticket item in the end, and we really need to look at what other counties do.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
It appears to me we have all the information right here in front of us, and Mr. Lamb said that he didn't want to go by what federal and state is doing, but yet we're going to base what we're going to do on what the other counties are doing. I mean, I'm in agreement with the gap hours. It seems the right thing to do to pay our deputies, our law enforcement for work they do, and if they want it in compensatory time, so be it. But I just don't see what the holdup would be, because for one, if we wait for a salary study, that's going to take time. And then we have to come back and decide. So, you know, it appears to me we're looking at 2, 3, 4 months before this is brought to us for a motion. That's my take on it. I feel like this board should move on it. It appears to me we have the information, the other counties, insofar as what they're doing. I mean, we're taking care of Nash County, but I understand Mr. Lamb's fiduciary obligation and wanted to look at that, but they should get paid for what they work.
Other board comments?
Another question.
I'd like to
I would ask the county manager.
Sure.
Can you have a recommendation for our first board meeting in November, our next board meeting?
I may, but I'm not sure I can do the research. I do think it's important what other counties do. We are a county in North Carolina, and you know, again, the fact that the feds or the state government, highway patrol does it one way, most of our employees are on a 160 work week, just like most employees in most counties. But as Major Wilson said, there's an exemption for law enforcement that's nationwide, and the fact that some of their employees are on a 160 week is a result of them requesting that they be on a 160 week over the last few years because they were working with federal and state employees. So this, you know, this seems to me that this is something that can be incorporated in a study. Most county employees get comp time. 911's the only department that gets paid after 160. I wasn't even aware of that until recently. It was done 10 or 12 years ago when they had a real problem hiring people, I'm told. But, you know, I think if you start paying people over 160, what are you going to do with the rest of the county employees who get comp time and accumulate a whole lot of comp time? So there's a lot of issues here, and I just think that this board needs to go slow and study it and not knee-jerk into a proposal. You know, everybody appreciates all the sheriff's department employees do, but we have a budget process. Every year, we have a budget process, and we pass a budget in June. And then July, August, September, October, we get these new proposals. And it's very difficult from a management standpoint to deal with these constant, heretofore unknown issues in the middle of a budget year. So if it does come about in a salary study, and this board decides to implement that salary study before July 1 of next year, you will have that ability to do that. But to go off budget and make such a major decision without getting all the information that this board needs, and again, what do other counties do? Why have they not presented us with information about what other counties do along these along this path? But board's free to do what it wants to do. But again, flawed public policy decisions are usually flawed because of a lack of information, and I don't believe you have all the information.
Commissioner Leggett, I think you have the floor next.
Thank you. I guess first I'd like to get a copy of what was presented. I hadn't had a chance to look at it. And then second, one thing that the county manager said, I just wanted to just agree with that, and then just add a little bit to, you know, items like this about pay requests and things that are needed for the county. I'm welcome to hear those kind of comments and presentations anytime. If it's a need, I want to hear about it. I don't want it to be lost in translation or get lost somewhere before it gets to the commissioners. I welcome those things anytime. But the most appropriate time to address major budgetary issues is when considering the budget. And so I'm glad that we're looking at this, and I think it would, you know, looking at it now would be well enough time to be able to make a decision before next budget year.
Thank you. Other commissioners that haven't spoke yet, Mr. Outlaw?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say, maybe everybody up here, and I know Ms. Leggett doesn't have it, and I appreciate your comments, but this is the first time I've seen this. And I think back to what my father-in-law used to tell me. He was not a highly educated man, but he was a very wise man. And he used to tell me, measure twice, cut once. So I think what we're trying to do here today is maybe get the cut ahead of the measuring. And I think we'd be wise to make sure that we fully understand the implications of this across the entire county. For that reason, I would support that it be a part of the salary study.
Do we have any idea how much this would cost, how much money we're talking about if we implement the change?
This is the first time I've gotten this also,
So-
I do not know.
So I looked at the numbers just based off of it, and it would not be a complete 5%. You're talking about the patrol division in detention. If they worked a complete and you paid them 8 hours every month, it would equate to 5% increase on their salary. And when you're figuring what the average salary is in the patrol division because of the young officers, and what the average salary in our detention facility is because of the young officers in our detention facility, it would not be as great as what you think it would be. It would probably be less than $100,000 if it was paid over the 8 hours a month. As I had mentioned, our strict trying to keep comp time down, trying to keep them from working as many hours. Just looking at last month, even when they had in-service training in our detention facility, we still kept it down. So based off last month's, it was well under 100,000 when I crunched the numbers based on the average, but it was not pooled with the other. The only thing I'm asking the board to look at is, I wish we could put our patrol officers on 160 hours. I do. But unfortunately, with the manpower that we have, we can't. Because if we do, we're going to go below minimum staffing, and that minimum staffing is going to jeopardize the patrol officer on the street answering calls, and our minimum staffing in our detention facility is going to jeopardize that. So since they have to work those hours above 160, to me, based upon just what the state does and based upon what the federal government does, but based upon what the state and their human resource policy, it doesn't have to be compensatory pay. It can be just making a policy saying that we're looking at gap time hours and that we will allow you to have compensatory time for that. So that when their time schedule comes up to be 168, we're not charging them simple things as vacation for that and things of that nature there. So that's all we're asking, is that that be looked at and considered in giving them the time that they're needed on the street and giving that back. So it doesn't have to be in a form of pay. The second request was, if at all possible, with a study if need be, could we compensate them with pay so we don't have to give them comp time and have to be off. But the first part and the main part is, can we get our policy at least looked at and revised so that those hours between that are basically that we give them compensatory time back for that, and that the county approves that.
Let me, I want to say how we got to the point today for the benefit of the board. This request came up, Major, 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, and we had a meeting. It came from the sheriff, and we had a meeting with staff, with our finance director, as well as the lady that does payroll. We worked through it better part of a couple of hours one afternoon in Mr. Lamb's office, and we all realized it was a very complicated item that we were dealing with, quite frankly. And what we decided at that meeting was staff was going to spend quite a bit of time analyzing it, studying it to understand where we were at. And then it was left that Major Wilson himself would come back and meet with staff. That meeting took place, and I think they all come to terms on what we were actually doing, what we actually could do, and what we may not have been doing. And then the sheriff has requested of me 1 month, it could have been 2 months. I think it's only one time to be put on the agenda. And I did not allow it to go on the agenda at that time because it was in between the meetings that we were been working on. And then I was asked again this last week, could it go on the agenda? And because of that request and the meeting had been held, I put it on the agenda. In my mind, it was no intent to take any action on this matter this morning because we've got one side on the table. I think we need to give the staff the opportunity to report back to this board before we even consider taking any action. And so the board can fully understand what it's taken me about 8 weeks to understand, quite frankly. So that's really why I allowed it, and I think that was the intent of Major Wilson and the sheriff, was to come and present their side, which you have done very well, and I think you get an idea of what we're dealing with, but I really didn't intend to have motions called for on this item this morning, just to get groundwork laid so it can continue to work, and whether it's done in the pay study or whether the board wishes to have a report back, as Mr. Belfield suggested, at their next meeting, that's a board decision. So that's kind of where we are. And with that cleared up, Mr. Combs, you had a question.
Did we get here in this overtime that we're having to, people, your officers having to work, is that because you're short-staffed like everybody else? Is that?
Well, it's not because we have so many vacancies, because we don't have that many vacancies. It's just the work hours that we have and the number of men and women in our patrol division. To get the maximum amount of coverage per squad, we can only have 4 squads. I think years ago, maybe they worked 8-hour shifts a long time ago, because as far as I have found in my research, talking with members that's been here 20-plus years, this type of schedule has been in place for over 20 years. So with that being the case, if we could work them different hours and give them time off and work everybody on 160 hours, then I think that that would be ideal. Unfortunately, because of the manpower that we have, the number of officers that we have in the patrol division, we can't do that because it's going to drop below the minimum standard that we need.
I think what Major Wilson said in layman terms, if I may, we can do this, or we can put more people on the force to cover the hours that he wants to cover.
Right.
That's what it boils down to.
Right.
But I would really suggest as chair that the board take this under advisement, allow management to report their findings on the matter. And I'm always interested, y'all hear me ask all the time, what do other counties do? Well, we need to know that because we are one of 100 in a governmental unit that works under the state guidelines. So it's always important, and we all know we have an association that's considered the best in the country that helps us work through these things. But that was where I hoped we would end up, but it's a board decision of where we move from here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
my only concern I have, if this came up 6 weeks ago and staff was to analyze it, here we are, 6 weeks out? Has there been any movement by the staff to analyze it?
Absolutely.
I just got this today. I got his analysis today. So to react to this, we need time to study it. I do want to make one thing clear.
No, I know you got it today. I got it today, too. I wasn't finished my statement.
I'm sorry.
Let me have the floor back if I may, and let me address the commissioner if you ask me a question, Mr. Lamb. Answer your question, yes, the staff did. They met back with Major Wilson, and they all come to terms on what the facts were. That's where we are at this morning. And yes, took some time to get to that point. Quite frankly, I think we had a little bit of scheduling problem. You were tied up, getting back with the staff, and it got done, and everybody's on an even keel right now. We know what the facts are. Now we got to address it. But go ahead with your floor.
I'm good. I would like to make a motion, though, that the staff come back to the board by the November meeting.
I hadn't called for a motion yet, but is there any more discussion?
May I say one more thing?
Any more discussion by board members?
Well, don't you think that it would be reasonable to have the confidence in our staff that they're going to look at this in good faith with the sheriff's office and come back at the earliest possible date? That might be 30 days, it might be 60 days, I don't know. But I don't think we should put a date definite on our staff to work through the facts of this matter with the sheriff's office.
I have the utmost confidence in our staff, but what I don't want is it to drag out for 3 or 4 months.
Mr. Lamb, you got the floor.
I'd like to make this comment.
Yes, sir.
At our next meeting, at least give us a progress report.
I'm going to ask for a motion of the board in just a minute. Mr. Lamb, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing when we talk about staff meeting. I have not had a meeting in over a month and a half. That first meeting 6 weeks ago was the only meeting I was part of, and at the time, it was suggested that we were doing something improper, and we did a lot of research. Our staff spent hours and hours dealing with the School of Government, reading up periodicals, looking to see if we were doing anything wrong as a county. This county is not doing anything improper. If you change it, you're doing it because you want to change it, not because we're doing anything improper.
Mr. Lamb, I think the suggestion in that meeting, which I was there, was it was questioned whether it was proper. I don't think it was indicated that it was improper.
Before that meeting, it was suggested that we were doing something improper.
I wasn't in the meeting before the meeting, apparently, sir.
Well, I don't agree that we're doing things improper. I mean, of course, I don't care what you're doing or have, there's always room for improvement. But I'm not saying a final decision, but I would like for us to have a progress report at our next regular monthly meeting in November. And I don't think that's asking too much. It doesn't mean that you have a final decision, but give us a progress report. That's all.
All right, I think if there's no objection, I'm going to move on. We've had a lot of discussion on it. What is the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion that the staff give a progress report to the Board of Commissioners next month.
on this issue.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a properly second. Is there any discussion on the motion? And make sure I understand the motion, Gwen, the motion is that we ask the staff to study this matter and at minimum give us a status report at the November meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign?
Mr. Chairman, I just want clarification if I could.
Sue, did you vote, ma'am? Give me 1 second.
I sure did.
Okay, okay, thank you. I didn't catch it that time, I'm sorry. Motion carries. Mr. Lamb?
I just want to make sure what our charge is, and I'm going to state what I believe it is, and if I'm wrong, let me know.
Okay.
See what other counties in North Carolina do as far as 168 versus 160 work week.
I would think that should be included, but I don't know that we give you specifics, but that's an item that I think we would all like to know, yes, at minimum.
And if y'all come up with something else you want us to look at?
Well, I certainly want to know the total projected cost as it relates to the budget, the effect on the budget if we were to do this.
Okay.
That's the number one thing that I would want to see.
Well, that would be across the board,
Correct.
all departments.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, look at it all.
If it's applicable to one, it's applicable to the other.
Well, you need to know how it affects all the departments, because you made the statement that they now get comp time.
Yes. And their two-part request includes paid, instead of comp time, to be paid out.
At straight time.
So we'll look at how that affects all departments in county government.
Correct. Well, I think the request from the sheriff's department is concerning the sheriff's department. Maybe, go ahead if you got something.
So just to clarify, it's time over 160 to 171. Can we give the patrol, it basically affects our patrol division and our jail detention officers. Can we have it in policy that they receive compensatory time, and that time would carry over? And if possible, if the budget allows, in lieu of compensatory time building up, can they be paid for that time? So therefore, any time over the 160, because those are the two divisions that are required for the 24/7 operation. So it's not just you have to pay them, it is can they at least carry compensatory time over? Compensatory time can help with them, instead of taking vacation time, they can have time off to take, there's times to do that. So that's what we're looking for, and it would mirror exactly what the state does. And just for an example, this morning I'm talking to other officers from other agencies that are close by, and with those agencies, any time given, they make over 80 hours in a 2-week pay period, they're given compensatory time back for that. So it is occurring in other places. So it is, to me, it seems that there could just be a simple policy change that would do that, and I appreciate the board taking time just to look at the policy change. So with the compensatory time, it costs nothing from a budget. In essence, it costs nothing from a budget. It allows that member to receive time back for time that they actually work, because we need them in those particular divisions to work. That's all that I'm asking.
I fully understand your
Yes, sir.
two-part question, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Lamb.
Yeah, currently, don't your officers get compensatory time?
They get compensatory time, anything over 168.
Okay.
Right. So what I'm asking is that, because our policy indicates that it's overtime, of course, it's time and a half for anything over 171. So we're want them to be able to carry their compensatory time over the gap time, let that be covered. And then the second part was to keep officers on the street, if at all possible, if the budget allows, to be able to compensate them with pay instead of comp time for that. And also to keep officers in our detention.
I got it.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay, sir. I understand it fully
I don't know
now.
how I'm going to quantify this if you have extra money.
Well,
across all departments in county government.
Right.
Or in your department alone, that's such a
Well,
vague.
I understand. I'm not asking it for the whole sheriff's office. I'm asking for the 2 24/7 divisions, which is patrol and detention, so we could keep them on the road and keep them in our jail working, because they already have a very difficult time managing the staff, keeping it covered the way that it is. So any consideration the board could give, we certainly appreciate it. And Chairman Davis, I have Commissioner Leggett's information, if I could give that to you, sir.
But if you would give it to the clerk, that would be great. That's the way we operate. Commissioner Combs, you got a question, Major, or someone else?
Mr. Lamb, also.
Okay. Thank you, Major.
Just, I'm a little frustrated about the comment of all departments. If we're asking this for just the patrol division, do we have to do it countywide for all our employees? Or we looking at our deputies that cover 24/7 and everybody else, it's a little bit different situation. If you do it for these, are we going to have to consider it for the whole county?
That's a policy decision that the board will have to make at some point, but we're going to quantify, if you treat all employees equally, how much it will cost. And then, again, my recommendation, as was Mr. Outlaw's, is that we incorporate this whole request in our salary study. And let's get
I think we're beyond that, Mr. Lamb.
an expert
if I may.
to tell us.
I think we give a directive, the board should give a directive.
Oh, I'm going to do the update.
Okay.
But that update may include that it should.
Well, let's see
be
what
done.
the update is first.
But here I'm thinking, we're just talking about these deputies, not the whole staff.
Right.
I mean,
Yes, sir.
His request is
If we do
related.
that, then we need to break it out, what it would cost for his request.
I understand.
Okay.
Commissioner Wilkins.
I was just going to say, unless all of our employees work 24/7, I mean, if Mr. Lamb wants to present, and the staff present to us the salary, or how much it's going to cost the county, I would ask that they only do it for 24/7.
Who's 20?
I mean, you just,
We're
but
getting
anyway,
confused
that's-
because we don't have the fact, we're
that's
not talking
fine.
about 24/7.
That's
We're
fine.
talking about 12-hour shifts. But furthermore, there is a distinct difference between the 160 when the other employees start getting time off later, and the request here at 168 when they start, or 171, 168. So I think it's pretty well, the staff
I
understands.
understand the request.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Wow. We finished up the manager's report. That brought us down to the need for a closed session. Does the board wish to, Madam Clerk, is there lunch here? Yes. Okay, do you wish to take a break for lunch, then go into closed session, or what do you wish to do? Pleasure of the board.
Take a break for lunch.
Okay,
Can we eat while we work?
that's my question. Do you-
That'll be fine.
I don't mind
10
that.
minutes to go get
You don't mind that, Mr. Belfield?
Nope.
Okay. I'm getting confused from week to month. Do we meet in here or do we meet in the back?
Mr. Lamb, for closed session, do we want them to meet in here or back in the
It's
back
up
room?
to the board, wherever they want to meet.
If you meet in here, you can eat.
You can eat back there.
Well, we eat back there too. We've been doing it for a long time.
Well, everything's already in here, so we can just
Right.
eat and keep rolling.
Okay. We'll take a 10-minute recess, and we will reconvene, and I would entertain a motion that we reconvene in a closed session in about 10 or 15 minutes. I have a motion by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? And it will be in this room. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed by a like sign, and I did not state the reason for the closed session. It is for economic development, matters of attorney-client privilege, and one personnel item to give an update to the board. So we are recessed, reconvening in 10, 15 minutes in a closed session in the Commissioner Chambers. And I hope I come back, my light's installed, and I know we're not live.